Chapter 1517. The Deal with the Witch Emperor Dejiang. The amount involved was quite huge, a total of 10 billion witch coins. And this was only a portion of the refined astral treasures, qi. He had already taken most of the refined qi for his own use. It was to prepare for the future strength of the human race, but he did not want to expose too much of his strength, especially not to strengthen the witch clan too much. Although the demon clan had the absolute advantage now, with the witch Emperor Dejiang around, the demon clan could not truly suppress the witch clan. This qi of 10 billion witch coins was enough for the witch clan to launch a counterattack. Happy cooperation. Happy cooperation. Lin Feng and Dejiang looked at each other and completed the deal. There was no need to count. Both parties trusted each other very much. Dejiang did not check the number of qi, and he was not worried that Dejiang would lie to him. Swoosh, Dejiang turned around and left in a carefree manner, yet his footsteps suddenly stopped. He didn't turn around and only spoke slowly. If you lack money, come to the shaman realm to find me. I really hope that our cooperation can continue. As soon as he finished speaking, Dejiang left. He came and went like the wind. His attainments in the Tao of space were extremely powerful, including his words that contained deep meaning. Swoosh! Lin Feng's eyes flashed. Dejiang's words just now were directed at him, hinting at many things. Obviously, he knew that he still had a lot of qi in stock, but he did not expose it. After all, they had a good relationship. If many things were to be revealed, it might not be a good thing. Leaving a way out for everything, it would be easier to meet in the future. Moreover, even so, he did not plan to sell the remaining qi to him, even though he needed 50 billion witch coins. There were many things that could not be done for his own benefit. Right now, he was not only carrying his family on his shoulders, but also the southern region. I guess he can't figure out how much I have saved, Lin Feng said softly. After all, qi was different from other astral treasures. It was the only heaven-ranked treasure in the Douling world to be refined. Even if Dejiang was knowledgeable and experienced, it was impossible for him to know how the qi was refined and how many materials were needed. Even the most experienced refiner did not dare to pat his chest and be sure. He was the only one who truly knew every step and every set of materials needed to refine pyrolite. What Dejiang said was actually more of a guess. Let's just fight for now, Lin Feng thought to himself. He would see how the war between the shamans and the demons developed before deciding whether to continue helping the shamans. Although he did not want the sorcerer tribe to be too powerful, he also did not want the demon tribe to be so powerful that they could completely suppress the sorcerer tribe. This would not benefit him or the southern region at all. With this batch of pie, the shaman tribe should be able to launch a large-scale counterattack in a short period of time. I'm afraid the demon race is going to suffer a great loss. Lin Feng nodded lightly. You know best how much power you can unleash in a war. In the past, Shi Juin had relied on that tiny amount of hui to display his might. Not to mention now that which Emperor Jiang had 10 billion hui in his possession. This was a fatal blow to the demonic beast race. Even if he couldn't chase the demons off the land, he could at least make the demons suffer. Perhaps the danger of the ancient southern region will be resolved naturally, and we won't have to fight the monster race head-on. Lin Feng smiled faintly. At this moment, although his main body was cultivating in the Nanbo Sea of Fire, wasn't it also a disguised form of imprisonment? With so many layers inside and outside, it was impossible for him to leave the Nanbo Sea of Fire. His only chance was to barge in. However, if the sorcerer tribe launched a large-scale attack and forced the demonic beast race to retreat from the ancient southern region, it would save him a lot of trouble. However, these were not in his hands. Only strength and fate were things that he could truly grasp. Cultivate. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. Just a little bit more. As long as my doppelganger can control the Lei Zheng true body, its strength will be stabilized. At that time, there is no need to fear the demonic beast race. Lin Feng clenched his fists, brimming with confidence. His doppelganger had once again surpassed his main body, becoming his most powerful weapon, ancestral Magus Palace. Great big brother. Xianming's eyes shone brightly. With this batch of Hui, the demonic beast race won't be able to bear the consequences. Hutu's eyes glimmered with excitement. Only Di Zhang's expression remained unchanged, as if he had a card up his sleeve. At this time, other than Xianming and Hutu, there was another man standing in the ancestral Magus Hall with a gloomy face. A sharp light flickered in his eyes, but his face was ashen. This man was none other than Shi Juin, who had just been pushed down from the Magus Emperor position by Di Jiang. Go and do it immediately. Di Jiang waved his hand and ordered. Yes, big brother. Joy flashed between Hutu and Xianming's brows as they complied and left. Before Hutu left, he glanced at Shi Juin. There was curiosity in his eyes, but more than that, he was doubtful. However, he did not ask anything and retreated. He had 100% trust in his big brother Di Jiang. Soon, only Di Jiang and Shi Juin were left in the spacious ancestral Magus Hall. One was as noble as an emperor, while the other was like a defeated general. Other Sorcerer Tribe experts might not know, but the Sorcerer Kings, including Shi Juin himself, knew very well that he had been utterly defeated by Di Jiang this time, and had to give up the Magus Emperor position. What do you mean by this? Shi Juin's voice was hoarse. His gaze was frosty as he looked at Di Jiang. He sneered, showing off? Or humiliating? Jia snickered as he said that. Shi Juin's face was filled with disdain. Since he had already shed all pretenses with Di Jiang, there was no need for him to put on an act to curry favor. However, Di Jiang's expression did not change. His hazy face had an unchanging expression, as if he had expected Shi Juin to do this. Do you think I would do such a senseless thing? Di Jiang retorted. Shi Juin's face darkened, and he was at a loss for words. From Shi Juin's point of view, Magus Emperor Di Jiang's intention was obvious. But thinking about it, the Di Jiang he knew would not do such a childish thing. Shi Juin's face turned red, and his embarrassment turned into anger. He gritted his teeth and barked, "Speak your mind, old fox." Di Jiang was not angry at being called an old fox. In fact, he had long known how Shi Juin called him behind his back, including the fact that Shi Juin had formed a clique within the Sorcerer Tribe, wanting to be independent and go against him. But so what? If he could not even tolerate others, how could he lead the Sorcerer Tribe? Do you know why I let you temporarily take over the Magus Emperor's position? Di Jiang asked. Humph. Shi Juin rolled his eyes disdainfully at Di Jiang. Scapegoat, you're just taking advantage of the situation to push me to the bottom of the valley. Pack! Pack! Slowly clapping his hands, Shi Juin raised his head proudly and said arrogantly, "Congratulations, old fox, you succeeded." Shi Juin's voice reverberated in the ancestral Magus Hall. He didn't even bother to look at Di Jiang. But you're wrong, Di Jiang said indifferently. Di Jiang's calm voice rang like a bell, causing Shi Juin to frown. If I wanted to set you up, I wouldn't risk the Sorcerer Tribe's honor. Di Jiang's eyes glimmered, looking straight at Shi Juin. Shi Juin's heart shuddered, but he pursed his lips tightly without saying a word. His instinct told him that Di Jiang was not lying to him, but he was unwilling to admit it. You think I hate you? Di Jiang laughed self-mockingly, shaking his head slowly. In fact, it's the opposite. I admire you. Maybe you don't believe me, but I really see you as the next Magus Emperor, so this time I will hand the Sorcerer Tribe to you. Di Jiang's voice was calm, but Shi Juin was dumbstruck. Shi Juin was stupefied. He had never thought that Di Jiang would say such words. Ambition, greed, unwillingness to be under others. In my opinion, these are your greatest strengths. Di Jiang's eyes glimmered. As the Magus Emperor, especially in this chaotic world, if you don't have ambition, what qualifications do you have to lead the Sorcerer Tribe? What qualifications do you have to conquer the demonic beast tribes? What I want is not a submissive and obedient successor, but someone like you who dares to do things, even if you're greedy to the point of digging your own grave. At the very least, I don't want the Sorcerer Tribe to die in a cowardly manner. Even if we fall, we want it to be grand. Zhang's voice was loud and clear, like thunder rumbling in Shi Jiuyin's ears. At this point, Shi Jiuyin was completely dumbfounded, and he stuttered, although you're not mature enough, but at this point, I have no other choice. Zhang's gaze deepened, looking straight at Shi Jiuyin. There's no harm in telling you. I only have less than a year left, and I can leave at any time. At that time, the sorcerer tribes rise and fall, honor and disgrace will be handed over to you. What? Shi Jiuyin's eyes widened in shock. Suddenly, as if he understood something, Shi Jiuyin was tongue-tied. Could it be you? I can't suppress the power in my body anymore. Zhang's eyes glimmered. As long as I'm willing, I can break through this bottleneck and enter space. But I don't want to leave just like this, with so many regrets and so many unfinished business. Shi Jiuyin's chest heaved up and down. He naturally understood what Zhang meant. Zhang had broken through the realm that every Saint King realm cultivator yearned for. His body and strength were still at the Saint King realm, but his strength had already reached the Starry Sky realm. Shi Jiuyin's expression changed drastically, and his expression changed rapidly. The waves of shocking news made it hard for him to react. The impact was too great, and he had never thought about it before. But now, the news was crashing into his heart like a tidal wave. Raising his head, their eyes met. Shi Jiuyin's face was slightly ugly, but looking at Zhang's deep eyes, he understood many things. Zhang had told him so much, such a secret. It was obvious that he wasn't joking around with him, nor was he idle. Zhang was passing on the responsibility to him, handing over the authority in his hands. In other words, everything Zhang had said was true. Shi Jiuyin is willing to go through water and tread on fire for the sorcerer tribe, without hesitation. Shi Jiuyin's expression was firm, but his eyes shone brightly. Very good. Zhang nodded with satisfaction. In this 1 year's time, I will do my best to nurture you into a qualified leader of the sorcerer tribe and officially ascend to the sorcerer's sovereign position. Moreover, I will help you lay the foundation for victory in the upcoming war of the sorcerer tribe. Zhang's voice was sonorous and powerful, and his eyes were deep and bright. Chapter 15:18. Undercurrents were surging in the Douling world. Ever since they occupied the ancient southern region, the demon clan seemed to have changed their temperament overnight. They recuperated and did not move at all for 3 months. Not to mention launching a general attack. They did not even launch a probing attack or small-scale harassment and plundering. No one knew what they were doing. However, the more it was like this, the more terrifying it was. Especially the human regions and other ancient regions around the ancient southern region. They were like tigers accompanying tigers and were abnormally anxious. In fact, ever since the ancient southern region was wiped out by the demon clan, the remaining 6 ancient regions' defenses were impenetrable. As the saying goes, one learns from one's mistakes. Now, if any of the ancient region's demon clans wanted to attack again, they would definitely expend a lot of energy, not to mention the Witch Clan who was already ready. The Witch Clan would not make the same mistake twice. If the Demon Clan was allowed to attack again, it would be a destructive blow to the Witch Clan. At that time, the ancient races, as the Witch Clan's strongest and most reliable ally, would be at odds with each other. The outcome of the war between the Witch Clan and the Demon Clan would be known even without continuing. The Witch Clan alone was not enough to contend against the Demon Clan. The ancient southern region. Wait. Lam Tok Ti's eyes were cold. How long do we have to wait? Kuei Tunyuan frowned and said in a deep voice, now that the Demon Clan's morale is high, we should take another city in one go. There has been no movement for 3 months. The Demon Clan's army is already quite gossipy. If we attack now, both the Witch Clan and the ancient races are already prepared. It's not the best choice. Lam Tok Ti shook his head. Are we going to wait endlessly? Kuei Tinyuan's eyes darkened, and he said in a deep voice, aren't we being too passive? Right now, the Demon Clan has the upper hand, and the Witch Clan can't take advantage of us at all. Let's catch them off guard before they have a stable footing. No, Zhang has returned. The witch clan is no longer a pile of loose sand. A trembling voice sounded. Lam Tok Ti and Kuei Tanyuan looked over and cupped their hands. Deputy Commander. It was none other than Bull Demon. What Di Jiang said was indeed true. In the past 3 months, there have been some internal conflicts within the Demon Clan. The 4 Demon Emperors and the Demon Commanders have been put on the table, but in the end, the 4 Demon Emperors had chosen to compromise. Not to mention the Great Sage, who had yet to appear. The Bull Demon alone was able to fight against 2 Demon Emperors without being at a disadvantage. In terms of strength, the 4 Demon Emperors were far inferior. But Deputy Commander, I'm afraid we'll miss the opportunity if we wait any longer. Kuei Tianyuan was still unwilling to give up. Lam Tok Ti's eyes lit up, and he said slowly, I've received news that the Witch Clan has secretly formed a group of saint-level experts, in which Emperor Jiang has collected many qi from somewhere. Right now, he is absorbing them to strengthen his strength, and the other Witch Clan armies are also ready to make a move. I believe that the Witch Clan will launch a counterattack soon. What? Kuei Tianyuan's expression changed. Then why are we still sitting here? We must strike first. Demon Emperor, you're wrong. Lam Tok Ti smiled faintly, and his eyes flickered. Do you still remember how we attacked and occupied the ancient southern region? His voice was not loud, but it made a sound which stunned Kuei Tianyuan. You want to do the same thing again? Kuei Tianyuan frowned and said hesitantly, but this time, the Witch Clan will definitely be on guard. I'm afraid we won't succeed. I know. Lam Tok Ti's expression did not change, and he said slowly, the ancient clan has already set up an inescapable trap, and the Witch Clan has also sent an army to protect the ancient regions. However, once the Witch Clan attacks the ancient southern region, their strength will definitely be scattered, and then our chance will come. Without the Witch Clan's protection, the ancient clan's defense will be weak no matter how strong it is. This time, I'll split into 3 groups and attack the 3 ancient regions of the ancient clan. I want to see how the Witch Clan will save us. How will the ancient clan defend us? It's difficult to take care of the front and back. In terms of individual combat strength, the Witch Clan might be strong enough, but the Demon Clan has the advantage of numbers. The huge number of Demon Clan powerhouses is enough to make it difficult for the Witch Clan and the Ancient Clan to take care of the front and back. Once we attack one of the ancient regions, the Ancient Clan will be in an uproar. At that time, the Witch Clan and the Ancient Clan will have internal conflicts and the Demon Clan. We can take advantage of the situation. Lam Tok Ti's eyes were bright as he said confidently, war had always been about mutual deception. The Witch Clan had their own standpoint, the Ancient Clan had their own standpoint, and the Demon Clan also had their own plans. Including Lam Tok Ti, they were all planning for themselves. Cooperating with Ji had not only allowed Lam Tok Ti to have the most comprehensive information, but he had also obtained a lot of benefits in the battle between the Witch Clan and the Demon Clan. The corpses of the saint-level powerhouses fell into his hands one by one. Although Lam Tok Ti still had not thought of how to deal with these priceless treasures, he would only think that it was too little and not too much. At that moment, Lin Feng was in the Nambwa Sea of Flames. The devouring fire changed again. The 88th layer. I'm still short of the last layer. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He took a deep breath, and his body sank again. The deeper he went, the stronger the flame energy and the more powerful it was. He found a neutral flame that was of the same level as the devouring fire, and then devoured it. The speed and efficiency of his cultivation would be maximized. The speed of the devouring fire's improvement here had already surpassed the absorption in the heavenly fire space. The Nambwa Sea of Flames was indeed a natural barrier in the ancient southern region. It was bottomless. Whoosh! Lin Feng's eyes lit up. The flames around him rose ferociously like wolves and tigers, as if they wanted to devour him. At this point, the power of the flames was close to the starry sky level. It was quite terrifying. However, it was the best place to cultivate the devouring fire. Sizzle! The flames burned more fiercely each time. The color of the devouring fire deepened, and its energy was similar to the fire of rebirth. The distance between them gradually shortened. Now, he was only short of the last layer. Almost there. Lin Feng thought inwardly, his chest heaving up and down. He relaxed his body, allowing the phoenix blood to flow in his body. He could clearly feel every inch of his surroundings, sensing the different levels of the flames. The devouring fire absorbed flames from all directions, growing stronger as it swallowed. Ancestral Magus Hall. How's the progress? Dijong's voice was solemn. Everything is progressing steadily, and it's going smoothly. Shi Jiuyin's expression was calm as he said slowly, "In at most 1 month's time, the war preparations will be completed. With this batch of Hui, the demonic beast clans will have nowhere to hide, and the ancient southern region's army will be defeated." What's the use? Dijong was expressionless. The ancient southern region's ancient races, fire spiritual masters, are almost wiped out. To my sorcerer tribe, this is an irreparable loss. Shi Jiuyin's face sank, but he did not say a word. He was the one who had caused this profound defeat. Don't blame yourself. Even if it was me, the result wouldn't have changed. No one would have thought that the usually reckless demonic beast clans would have such a strategy. The person behind this is not to be underestimated. A sharp light glimmered in Dijong's eyes. Just as I expected, with that person's character, he won't give up after tasting the sweetness of victory. If there's a first time, there will be a second time. Shi Jiuyin's eyes deepened, and he asked in a low voice, "Sorcerer Sovereign, are you saying that the demonic beast clans will attack other ancient regions?" The possibility is more than 90%. Dijong nodded. The ancient races in our sorcerer tribe are like lips and teeth. Dividing the ancient race's forces is a devastating blow to our sorcerer tribe. Now that the ancient southern region has been swept away, the other ancient regions are already dissatisfied with our sorcerer tribe. If the demonic beast clans attack another city, the consequences will be unimaginable. Shi Jiuyin pondered for a moment, then said solemnly, "I know what to do." Looking at Shi Jiuyin, there was a rare trace of admiration in Dijong's eyes, and he said with satisfaction, "Very good. In truth, your ability is not bad, but you lack the ability to see the big picture. Sometimes, you look at things too superficially." Shi Jiuyin raised his head. A cold light flickered in his eyes as he looked at Dijong. "Sorcerer Sovereign, please give me some pointers." "Human Lin Feng," Dijong said slowly. Shi Jiuyin's face tightened. "This person is amenable to coaxing, but not coercion. If you kill Lin Feng with your method, where will we get this batch of Hui that can turn the situation around?" Dijong's eyes glimmered, looking straight at Shi Jiuyin. "Don't be afraid of talent. To become a true monarch, one must be magnanimous. Rather than killing him, it's better to keep him for our own use." Shi Jiuyin nodded slowly. His face was slightly red, but there was a glimmer of light in his eyes. Shi Jiuyin looked at Dijong and asked, "What is Sorcerer Sovereign's plan?" A sharp light flickered in Dijong's eyes as he said, "Humans are rich in emotions, and this kid is no exception. To deal with him, we should start with emotions. Rather than killing him, it's more effective to threaten him. We can start with the people around him or the southern region." "Oh!" Shi Jiuyin's eyes lit up. Dijong's expression was calm, but his voice was firm. "After this battle, the demonic beast clan's hatred for Hui will seep into their bones. At that time, we just need to release the news about Lin Feng. What do you think the demonic beast clans will do?" The corners of Shi Jiuyin's mouth curved into a sly smile. "Gather our forces and take down the southern region." Dijong went on. "At that time, we can make an appearance. First, we can destroy the demonic beast clan's prestige. Second, we can save the southern region. And third, we can make the southern region fall under our sorcerer race's wings. At that time, talents like Lin Feng and the others will belong to our sorcerer race. If we have enough Hui, what can't we do?" "That's a brilliant plan." Shi Jiuyin's eyes glimmered, and a smile appeared on his face. What was an ambitious and ruthless character? Tyrannical, ambitious, and unscrupulous in order to achieve his goal. Lin Feng was obviously unaware that Di Jiang had used him as a stepping stone. But even if he knew, there was nothing he could do. This was an open conspiracy. This Douling world's strongest man was an expert in scheming, and he was even stronger than Shi Jiuyin. Di Jiang could single-handedly save the sorcerer race and pull down the demonic beast clans who had the absolute advantage in the Second Great War. How could Di Jiang be simple? Winds and clouds were surging, and no one knew what would happen next. Compared to the other 8 regions, life in the southern region was peaceful. Everyone was happy, and they didn't have to worry about food and clothing. Who would have thought that a conspiracy was brewing? As time passed, Huang Xiaolong's avatar became more familiar with the lightning Zheng true body talent. At the same time, outside the southern region, the smoke of the war between the sorcerer race and the demonic beast clans was rising. As the two races' undercurrents surged, another war was about to break out after the war in the ancient southern region. Chapter 1519. Friction, Collision. Probing, Feinting. Strategic attacks were launched again and again. The lake between the liches and demons that had just calmed down a little was once again surging with waves. The war had broken out. It was a coincidence, but it was also inevitable. It was a battle destined to happen. The only difference was that both sides had their own plans. Shaman Emperor Jiang, Shi Jiuyin, Demon Emperor Kui Tianyuan, Lam Tok Ti. Every expert had their own plans. There were also many experts hiding in the dark, observing the battle like fishermen waiting to reap the benefits. For example, this was the Douling world's largest intelligence organization, possessing unknown power and secrets. They had a strong desire for Saint Realm experts' corpses. In the continuous war between the demonic beast tribe and shaman tribe, had secretly collected countless experts' corpses. Especially when he cooperated with Lam Tok Ti, he had earned a lot. Not to mention the demonic beast tribe. Even the shaman tribe was suspicious of the mastermind behind all this. This time, the war between the shaman and demon tribes was destined to be chaotic. Fight! It was a fierce battle. The 8 human regions and 6 ancient regions were focused on the war, cheering for the shaman tribe. Everyone knew that the shaman tribe could not afford to lose. Once the demonic beast tribe took root on the land, it would be 10 times harder to expel them. It was not like the Second Great Shaman War, where the shaman tribe could counterattack despite being at a disadvantage. Everyone could see that this time, the demonic beast tribe was different. Their defense was extremely strong. As if they had expected the shaman tribe to attack, the demonic beast tribe had sent a large number of troops to defend. There were many mountain ranges in the southern part of the ancient region, making it easy to defend but difficult to attack. Not to mention, the shaman tribe's previous defeat had caused the ancient tribes to lose confidence. This time, there were not many ancient tribes experts who entered the battlefield. Without enough long-range attacks, the shaman tribe's battle strength was greatly reduced. However, this time, the shaman tribe came prepared. South Sea of Flames. Wah! In the center of the Sea of Flames, a black figure slowly appeared, shining brightly. Lin Feng had broken out of seclusion. His expression was calm and composed. There was no joy or sadness on his face. It was more of a kind of indifference and absolute confidence in himself. After months of secluded cultivation in the Sea of Noble Flames, the Flame Devourer had finally broken through its bottleneck and reached 89th level. It merged perfectly with the level of the Flame of Rebirth. Flames at the peak of Saint King grade. In terms of offensive power, the Fire of Engulfment was considered to be one of the best in the Dou spirit world, and it was the nemesis of all other flames. Now that it had reached the 89th level, its offensive power was unparalleled in the Dou spirit world, even if it hadn't merged with the Flames of Rebirth. And if it were to form Phoenix Flames, how strong would it might be? It was hard to estimate. His main body strength had increased greatly. After bestowing the perfect inheritance to the divine beast Phoenix, he had reached a new peak. Now, The strength of his main body was superior to that of his clone. He was no longer the ignorant person he used to be. The war seems to have stopped. Lin Feng's eyes flashed as he murmured. Earlier on, his devouring fire had already broken through. He had not come out for a long time, but he had been cautious and had been sensing his surroundings. Even if he did not use his eyes to see, it was not difficult to deduce the balance of the war's development based on what he sensed. The demon race army stationed in the southern ancient region had been sent out batch after batch, but none of them had returned. Now, they were either still engaged in a fierce battle outside the southern ancient region, or they had already lost. Others did not know the details of the wizard race, but he was very clear. A total of 10 billion wizard coins worth of the astral treasure chi. Even if he had only fused half of it, it was enough to make the demon race suffer. The demon race's greatest advantage over the wizard race was that they had more people, an advantage in numbers. And with the appearance of the astral treasure chi, the number of wizard race's saint-level experts had increased sharply, but the demon race's greatest advantage had been erased. This was quite fatal. In the war, saints could be said to be the backbone of the force. Below them, they could sweep away the Star Ocean-level martial artists. Above them, the powerful saints could even compete with Saint King-level experts. And the most terrifying thing about the Chi was that the divine beasts and ferocious beasts released by the Chi were not only talented, they were also not afraid of death. Each of them had an immortal body. How powerful! Not to mention that the wizard race had the wizard Emperor Jiang, who was like the dragon bone of the ship, the stabilizing needle of the sea. How could the demon race be invincible? To defeat Di Jiang, unless it's him. Lin Feng's eyes flashed as he thought to himself. A huge figure appeared in his mind. It was naturally domineering and unstoppable. Until today, when he looked back at the peak battle in the wizard realm, he gained even more. Even though his main body and clone had improved greatly and could even compete with the demon emperor, compared to the wizard Emperor Jiang and the demon race commander, they were still lacking. The reason why he lost that day was because his Tao of space was suppressed, and he could not unleash his full strength. Secondly, in terms of the use of the heavenly treasure, he was not even a tenth of Di Jiang. But Lin Feng was deep in thought. Thinking back to that battle, even though the demon race commander lost, it was still glorious. If he could perfectly match the heavenly treasure, if he could eliminate the disadvantage of the Tao of space, with his abnormal body and unparalleled talent, Wizard Emperor Jiang's invincible golden body would probably be broken, and the wizard race would suffer the most painful defeat. However, there were no ifs. Is he back? Lin Feng looked into the distance and asked softly. Perhaps the demon race commander's injuries were much more serious than Di Jiang's, but his physique and recovery ability were also better than Di Jiang's. Logically speaking, he should have recovered long ago. However, there was still no movement. He did not know what he was planning and what his goal was. He really wanted to witness this shocking battle with his own eyes. It was not only because he could learn a lot from this peak battle, but also because Wizard Emperor Jiang and the Demon Race Commander would be his strongest enemies in the Douling world in the future. As long as he was the human emperor, as long as he continued to protect the southern region and the humans, he would meet Di Jiang and the Demon Race Commander sooner or later. Let's go out and take a look first. Lin Feng's eyes flickered. With a thought, he flew away like a bolt of lightning. Looks like it's over. Lin Feng flashed. He floated in midair calmly and looked at the miserable living beings. Corpses were strewn all over the place, and the strong smell of blood drifted with the wind and kept entering his nose. Just by the smell of blood, one could tell how tragic the casualties were and how shocking the battle was. Those who had not experienced war would probably faint just by smelling the smell of blood. Looking over, there was nothing else other than corpses. The corpses of the witch race, the corpses of the demon race, and the broken limbs were everywhere. The strange thing was that there was no witch race army, nor was there a single demon race expert. It was rather strange, as if they had all evaporated in an instant. Strange, Lin Feng thought to himself, his eyes flickering. If the demon race wins, even if they chase after the witch race, they will at least leave some troops here. If the witch race wins, There should be no reason for them to give up this place. Could it be that they sent out all their troops to chase after the demon race? Lin Feng was deep in thought. After a long while, he nodded and said, "What's the point of thinking so much? The truth will not change. If you want to know the real situation of this battle, you will find out when you return to Yin Imperial City." Anyway, regardless of whether the witch race or the demon race wins, to me, what does it matter? With a calm expression, Lin Feng left calmly. The demon race was defeated. Just as he entered Yin Imperial City, Lin Feng already knew the news. This was not a secret at all. The entire Yin Imperial City was abuzz, and everyone was talking about it. Just as he had expected, with enough Hui and the witch King Jiang holding the fort, the morale of the witch race was high. They were invincible and returned victorious. At this moment, the streets and alleys of Yin Imperial City were talking about this battle. Clearly, the neutral experts were very curious. Was the demon race or the witch race stronger? The answer was, the witch race was not weak. It would not be easy for the demon clan to swallow the sorcerer clan in one gulp. This was destined to be a difficult, time-consuming, and exhausting battle. As he walked on the street and listened to the idle chatter of the people around him, Lin Feng's heart was moved. He pieced together the bits and pieces and had a rough understanding of the entire battle. Although the witch race won this battle, it did not seem to be an easy victory. The demon race's counterattack was also very sharp. On one side, they defended the ancient southern region, and on the other, they set up an empty city strategy. They split into three and attacked the three ancient regions of the ancient tribe. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled, and a chill rose in his heart. He admired the demon race's bold actions and was also shocked by their cruelty. As usual, the demon race used their own people as pawns. They split into three and cut off their own escape route. The demon race would rather give up the solid defense system of the ancient southern region and take a shortcut. Clearly, they were prepared for the witch race's battle power. If not, why would they take such a huge risk? With the demon race's sufficient military strength, why not defend? The two armies are fighting openly and covertly. I'm afraid it's not as simple as I think. There must be something strange going on. Lin Feng nodded secretly. It was abnormal for the demon race to take risks. Although he knew that the witch race had a trump card and a large number of hues, the demon race had no reason to know. On the surface, the demon race was superior to the witch race. If they did not know that they would lose, why would the demon race split into three and give up the ancient southern region? Oh, the information is too fragmented. I'm afraid it's not very accurate. It's still early. I might as well go to Yulong Tea House. Perhaps I'll gain more. Lin Feng pondered for a moment before stepping into the teleportation formation and leaving. Yulong Tea House, in a hidden place in Imperial Yin City. On the surface, it was a tea house that attracted many idle martial artists to talk about the world. However, in reality, there were all kinds of rumors and gossip. Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he stepped in. He was very familiar with this place. It was called G's Intelligence Network. As long as he paid enough money, he could find out everything. It was a familiar place, a familiar environment. Everything was normal. Lin Feng came with a calm expression. However, just as he passed by the main hall, his body suddenly trembled. His footsteps were unsteady as he stopped. What? Lin Feng was shocked. Chapter 1520. Do you know why the demon race lost? Because of the astral treasure by... The witch race has more than 500 astral treasures by, and I'm afraid that's not all of them. It can't be. Where did the witch race get so many by? Stupid. By is a heaven rank acquired treasure. As long as there are enough materials, it can be produced without limit. Do you want to know who the creator of Bai is? I'll tell you a secret. He is the human race's chief artificer, the lord of the southern region, Lin Feng. Complete shock. The one who was shocked was not the martial artists who were discussing, but Lin Feng himself. He never thought that he would hear his name here at this time. This was not a kind of pride, but a kind of guilt. Lin Feng's forehead was instantly covered in cold sweat. His name appeared in such a high-profile manner. and so accurately and without any doubt that he was the creator of by too shocking. How could this be? Swish. Lin Feng's gaze was fixed on the martial artist who said his name. He was about to go up and ask in detail, but suddenly another voice sounded in his ear. The same words, different expressions, said exactly the same, and it was his name, the Lord of the Southern Region, Lin Feng, the creator of Bai, the greatest contributor to the demon race's great defeat. Obviously, this news had already spread from 1 to 10, from 10 to 100, and he believed that it would not be long before everyone knew. He had actually inexplicably become the greatest contributor to the war of the witches and demons. This kind of flattery not only did not have any practical help to him, but instead put him in a huge abyss. Danger lurked everywhere. Who was it that leaked out his secret? Lin Feng's eyes flashed, and he pursed his lips. There were not many martial artists who knew the secret that he was the creator of Bai. One by one, their faces appeared, and suspicion arose in his heart, but it made him even more conflicted. Taking a deep breath, Lin Feng's expression was unsightly. His mind was in a mess, and he could not understand it. Let's go. He would return to the Imperial Garden and make a long-term plan. Lin Feng's expression was unsightly. He knew in his heart that the situation was extremely serious. Imperial Garden. Could it be that an enemy wants to harm you? Feng Chao said with a frown. That's possible. Lin Feng nodded. The possibility of framing someone else was indeed very high. Getting someone else to do the dirty work was a superior strategy. Killing without spilling blood. Can you guess who it is? Feng Chao asked again. I don't know. Lin Feng closed his eyes. Countless figures appeared in his mind, but he couldn't get an answer. If he really wanted to talk about enemies and conflicts of interest, he had offended not just one or two, but too many. However, to be able to come up with such a plan to shift the blame, not only did the person have a good understanding of himself, but he was also very smart and knew how to take advantage of the situation. Wait a minute. That's not right. Lin Feng's eyes deepened, and he immediately denied it in his heart. The battle between the liches and demons had just ended. Even if they wanted to frame him, they couldn't have done it so quickly. Usually, such things had to be planned slowly and carried out carefully. Right now, the news was spreading like a swarm of locusts. Soon, everyone knew about it. It was premeditated. However, there were no accurate signs of the start of the war of the liches and demons. Could it be Lin Feng's eyes turned cold? He unconsciously clenched his fists and looked at Thousand Love Emperor. The latter's exquisite eyes flashed. She seemed to have the same idea. Actually, it's not very useful to think about it now. Thousand Love Emperor said slowly with a serious expression. Indeed, Lin Feng nodded solemnly. At this moment, all kinds of thoughts appeared in his mind. He knew very well how much trouble this news would bring him. Now, the entire Yin Imperial City knew about it. In a few hours, his name would be like thunder in the ears. It would no longer be a secret. The witch race had spies, but did the demon race not? He was already worried when he first sold the Hui. After the demon race suffered a great loss from the Hui for the first time, they were already eyeing him covetously. He was treading on thin ice. Fortunately, he hid it well. Not many people knew about it. Therefore, his identity wasn't exposed. But now, he couldn't hide it anymore. Even if he denied it, it would be difficult for him to escape suspicion under the attack of public opinion. The demon race would definitely kill him. If he only knew his identity, the demon race wouldn't be able to do anything to him. However, he was now carrying the burden of the southern region. Given the temperament of the demon race, they would definitely vent their anger after this defeat. The southern region was undoubtedly the best choice. Phew! Lin Feng exhaled deeply. His expression was extremely ugly. An unexpected calamity. But now, it had become a disaster for the entire southern region. Even the witch race might not be able to resist the demon race. Could the southern region win with just the strength of the demon race? Even if the southern region was extremely powerful now, it was just the beginning. The demon race had already become a towering tree. They weren't even on the same level. Once the demon race attacked the southern region, it would definitely be a bloody massacre. The instigator would be him. The thing that he didn't want to happen the most still happened. There were always two sides to everything. Selling the astral treasure puppet had allowed him to obtain a huge amount of witch coins, allowing his father and Duo to have a chance of survival. It had also allowed the God creation plan to be carried out vigorously, allowing the southern region to be reborn. But at the same time, he had buried a bomb that could explode at any time. Now, the fuse had been lit. Eastern Ancient Region, one of the 7 great ancient regions, was currently occupied by the demon race. However, unlike the Southern Ancient Region, the Eastern Ancient Region wasn't that hot. The climate was rather pleasant and peaceful. Flowers and plants bloomed everywhere, and there was no smell of blood. There were no traces of a great battle. In fact, there really wasn't a fierce battle here. The demon race had fallen for the empty city strategy. They split into 3 and attacked the 3 great ancient regions. Who would have thought that the ancient race would be one step ahead of them and retreat from the ancient regions? They tried to steal a chicken, but ended up losing the rice. The demon race experts who were guarding the southern ancient region as sacrifices were all killed by the witch race. Not a single one was left. The demon race experts who split into 3 and attacked the 3 great ancient regions were also chased by the witch race army. The other 2 great ancient regions suffered heavy losses, and only the eastern ancient region was safe and sound. Damn it, Kuei Tinyuan's face was ashen. The 4 emperors of the demon race, Niu Yunlei and Xiong Bao, were all injured. Fox Princess didn't care about anything, and he was the one in charge of this battle. Who would have thought that he would suffer such a huge loss and be beaten up by the witch race? As a dignified demon emperor, where would he put his face in the future? Lam Tokti lowered his head and didn't say anything, as if he was feeling guilty and pained over the loss of the battle. However, no one could guess what he was really thinking. Fox Princess sat lazily with a faint smile on her face. She played with her hair, and from time to time, her smile seemed to be mocking Kuei Tianyuan. Vice Commander Bull Demon, who was sitting in the seat of honor, was still expressionless. He was as motionless as a mountain and was very serious. I've already said that those who are not of my race will definitely have different intentions. Fox Princess smiled and glanced at Lam Tokti with her beautiful eyes. Then, she looked at Kuei Tianyuan and said softly, "It's just that big, Brother K." He didn't listen. Kuei Tianyuan's eyes darkened as he looked at Lam Tokti. At that moment, the trust in his eyes had already been shaken. The defeat of this battle not only had a huge impact on him, but also on the demon race. But he was the one who had promoted Lam Tokti. If he turned against him now, wouldn't he be slapping himself in the face? Demon Emperor, you're wrong. Lam Tokti raised his head and looked at Fox Princess with a calm expression. His eyes shone faintly. Although the witch race had the upper hand in this battle, the real reason for our defeat was not the dispatch plan. The defensive strength that we left behind in the ancient southern region was enough. Even if it was broken, the witch race would definitely suffer heavy losses. However, that was not the case. It was precisely because of the loss of the ancient southern region that the entire body was affected. The witch race army rode the wind and broke through the waves to attack the other 2 armies of our ancient southern region. They were unable to take care of the front and back, and were defeated one by one. Otherwise, even if the sneak attack failed, our demon race army would have gathered together. Why would we need to fear the witch race? Lam Tokti's words were firm. Kuei Tianyuan nodded thoughtfully in agreement. That was indeed the case. The sudden defeat of the ancient southern region had caught the demon race off guard. If the plan was broken at the beginning, how could they continue? You're good at sweet-talking and shirking responsibility. Fox Princess's eyes were like silk, but her tone was aggressive. Demon Emperor, you're wrong again. Lam Tokti replied calmly. The Tao of War is a big picture. A single victory or defeat is not enough to decide everything. A glint flashed in Lam Tokti's eyes. He said seriously, "It's not just the Demon Emperor. Have you forgotten that the demon race army was able to enter the ancient southern region smoothly? Even if I didn't do anything, I still did something. right? Fox Princess was speechless. Indeed, Lamb Talk Tea had contributed greatly to the demon race being able to stand there and enter the hinterland. All right, we're all in the same boat. Let's not be suspicious of each other. Kuei Tanyuan waved his hand and said in a low voice, although the witch race has won back a city, the demon race still has a slight advantage. Just as Brother Lai Di said, a single victory or defeat is not enough to decide everything. Let's discuss what we should do next. As he spoke, Kuei Tianyuan looked at Bull Demon. His eyes flickered. What do you think, Deputy Commander? It's up to you. Bull Demon said in a low voice as if it had nothing to do with him. Kuei Tianyuan's eyes flashed. He turned to Lamb Talk Tea and asked, Brother Lai Di, what do you think? Lamb Talk Tea looked at Bull Demon and said seriously, I think that we have to boost our morale and win a beautiful battle. Oh, Kuei Tianyuan's eyes lit up. That's easy for you to say, Fox Princess mocked. Lamb Talk Tea smiled faintly and ignored Fox Princess. Instead, he continued to speak to Kuei Tianyuan. Demon Emperor, you should know why we lost so miserably in the battle of the ancient southern region. Kuei Tianyuan clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. TSK. It's all because of that damn Tisk. Lamb Talk Tea nodded as a cold glint flashed across his eyes. The reason why the witch race has such a large number of TSK is because the master of the southern region, the human's chief weapon refiner, Lin Feng, provided them. He refined them nonstop and crazily produced them for the witch race. So, Kuei Tianyuan did not hide the intense hatred in his eyes. His killing intent surged. Their eyes met. Lamb Talk Tea stretched out his finger and said in a deep voice, if we don't get rid of this kid, he will definitely be a huge threat to the demon race. Lamb Talk Tea clenched his fists and his veins popped out. He cupped his hands and said, Demon Emperor, please give the order to gather a large number of troops to flatten the southern region and kill Lin Feng. Completely eliminate him. Chapter 1521. Everyone was in an uproar. The news that Lin Feng was the creator of by spread throughout the Douling world in a short time. Even though Shun tried his best to stop and deny it, he couldn't stop the news from spreading. If it was before, many powerful cultivators would have gathered in the southern region. However, even if they knew about it now, no one would come to find trouble with Lin Feng, one of the 4 giants of the netherworld, Lin Yun, one of the 4 city guards of the king of hell of the north, Lin Feng. Lin Feng's strength was soon exposed. He was as strong as the king of hell of the north. Who would dare to find trouble with him? What's more, he had such a strong background. However, to Lin Feng, these were just trivial matters. The real trouble was far from coming. Southern region, Taoyuan. Lin Feng, you're finally here. Shun's eyes lit up as he heaved a sigh of relief. Greetings, Emperor Lin. King Yin and the others bowed respectfully. Even though they were sage kings now, their respect for Lin Feng came from the bottom of their hearts. They knew very well that without Lin Feng, they wouldn't be where they were now. Lin Feng's kindness was like giving them a new life. Lin Feng smiled and nodded. He walked over casually, as if there was nothing wrong with him. It was as if he didn't care at all. But was that really the case? Thank you for your hard work, Shun. Lin Feng walked in front of Shun and said softly. He didn't say it explicitly, but they both knew what he meant. Shun had tried his best to stop the news from spreading. He tried his best to deny it. Perhaps the effect wasn't ideal, but at least he tried his best. The rest was beyond his control. Don't worry. Shun shook his head and said, What should we do next? From his expression, it was clear that Shun had a clear understanding and was mentally prepared. This news wasn't just for Lin Feng. It was also a huge blow to the southern region. It could even be said to be an extremely dangerous calamity. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He said, Keep a close eye on the demon race. Also, gather the powerful cultivators of the southern region, especially those who participated in the God creation plan. At any time, prepare for battle. Lin Feng had a serious expression on his face when he landed, carrying a strong fighting spirit. He didn't hesitate in the slightest, nor was he afraid in the slightest. It was as if he'd come to a decision long ago. His voice clearly fell into the ears of every human powerhouse. Although there was surprise and shock in their eyes, there was even more battle intent that was exactly the same as Lin Feng's, slowly rising like the rising sun. To be able to stay here and participate in the Ares project, none of them were cowards. This was especially true for those newly ascended saint-level elites. Each and every one of them felt their blood boiling. Newborn calves were not afraid of tigers. They were very different from the experts of the older generation. They didn't have a fixed way of thinking. Most importantly, they worshipped Lin Feng with 100% respect. They treated Lin Feng as their idol, their goal, their emperor, and their master. Fight? Let's fight then. What was there to be afraid of? If he didn't even have the courage to fight, how could he be worthy of being a martial artist? Lin Feng, actually, Shun looked at Lin Feng and pursed his lips. He wanted to speak, but couldn't. He naturally wasn't afraid of death, but to Shun, the southern region was his foundation. The overall situation was more important, and the survival of the human race was the most important thing in his heart. No need to say any more. I've already made up my mind. Lin Feng's gaze fell on Shun. After working together for so long, it could be said that it was flawless. He naturally knew what Shun was thinking. His grandfather Feng Chao had also mentioned this suggestion. Submit to the witch race. Ask the witch emperor for help. It wasn't that he didn't want to, but wouldn't this be exactly what the witch emperor wanted? He racked his brains to spread this news. What he hoped for was precisely this, to make the southern region surrender. To be precise, it was to make himself surrender and become the exclusive refiner of the witch race. He would refine the astral treasure Qi to fight against the demon race and dominate the Douling world. With the witch Emperor Zhang's methods, once he entered the tiger's den, how could he possibly escape? Although the witch race and the human race were both part of the human race, and their bloodlines were similar, if one truly understood the witch race's evil nature, they would know that the witch race's nature was no different from the demon race. The demon race was ruthless to the human race, while the witch race was purely making use of the human race. After using them, they would kick them away. Both of them were not good people. Shun sighed softly, as if he had gained a few more strands of white hair. Since Lin Feng said so, what else could he persuade him? Moreover, he understood that submitting to the witch race was the same as asking a tiger for its skin. Selling one's soul to the devil would not end well. However, looking at Lin Feng's calm expression, as if he had not revealed his trump card, Shun was surprised and nodded his head. All this time, everything Lin Feng had done had proven that he was a qualified leader, a true emperor of the human race. Perhaps, this time, he was really confident. Ancestral Magus Hall. Which emperor, the demonic beast race, is preparing to attack the southern territory? Shi Jiuyin said solemnly. Is that so? Di Jiang muttered softly. His expressionless face was unfathomable, but there was a hint of surprise in his drawn-out voice. It was not the demonic beast race, but Lin Feng. It had been so long, but Lin Feng had not come to find him, even though the demonic beast race was openly making their move. Was he really planning to die with the southern territory? In my opinion, Lin Feng is planning to stay out of trouble. A sharp light glimmered in Shi Jiuyin's eyes. If he were in Huang Xiaolong's shoes, he would have done the same. Was it worth it to sacrifice his life for some insignificant people? With Lin Feng's strength, it was more than enough for him to move unhindered in the battle spirit world. Without any worries, he could focus on advancing to the peak of the martial Tao. Why would he seek trouble for himself? No, he won't. Di Zhang's voice was soft, but firm. Di Zhang's deep gaze fell on Shi Jiuyin as he spoke slowly. If he doesn't have a sense of responsibility, he doesn't deserve to be an emperor. Shi Jiuyin's face reddened at Di Zhang's indifferent words. Although Di Jiang seemed to be talking about Lin Feng, he was actually warning him. Maybe he wants to fight the demonic beast race to the death. Shi Jiuyin said. He's not a reckless person. Di Zhang's brows furrowed, and he said slowly, other than my witch race, who else can help him defend the southern territory? A sharp light glimmered in Di Zhang's eyes as he pondered, but he could not come up with an answer. It was strange. He couldn't see through this human anymore. Maybe he's still holding on to that last bit of luck. Sure, Juin said softly. Until the last moment, no one knows what will happen. Dijiang nodded. Maybe, last bit of luck? It could be said yes, but it could also be said no. Obviously, Shi Juin did not understand Lin Feng. Even which Emperor Jiang merely relied on intelligence and his deep experience to understand Lin Feng and judge his character. If he didn't have a certain degree of confidence, why would Lin Feng be so stubborn? For the sake of the big picture, even if he knew it was Dijiang's doing, he could only admit defeat. But at this moment, there was still a chance to save the situation. The only thing he lacked was time. Just a little bit more. Lin Feng said inwardly, clenching his fists tightly. Inside the Stepping Star Mansion, Huang Xiaolong's clone was sweating profusely for his main body. He had been in seclusion for half a month, concentrating on comprehending and cultivating. Now, he had entered the final stage. Under the pressure from the outside world, Huang Xiaolong's main body could be said to be going all out. Others naturally didn't know, but Lin Feng knew that the witch race wasn't the only way to survive the Southern Territory's calamity. Shield of Truth, a heavenly treasure that possessed boundless power. It was an existence more powerful than a heaven-ranked treasure. It was a treasure full of mysteries and unknowns, possessing the power of a starry sky. The 100 Falls, a heaven-ranked treasure like this, could become a holy ground, possessing powerful defensive capabilities and protection. Why couldn't the Shield of Truth do the same? The Shield of Truth was a purer and more powerful defensive treasure. 0-degree defense. The Shield of Truth's strongest defense. It could materialize the Shield of Truth's power and extend it to perfectly protect the host. Although the host couldn't move, the number of experts in the Douling world who could break it could be counted on one hand. Since the 0-degree defense could perfectly protect the host and extend it, why couldn't it extend further? From as small as a mountain, as big as a city, and even bigger, the entire Southern Territory, a mustard seed, a world. In Huang Xiaolong's opinion, the Southern Territory was indeed big, but in the Douling world, the Southern Territory was just a tiny speck of dust. If it was magnified and compared to the starry sky, the Southern Territory couldn't even be compared to a speck of dust. If the Shield of Truth had the power of starry sky, why couldn't it protect this Southern Territory? Huang Xiaolong had an idea, but turning it into reality wasn't an easy matter. One step at a time, the experiment was a success. The most important thing now was to cultivate and comprehend the second ability of the Shield of Truth. As long as he could comprehend it perfectly, he was confident that, with the Shield of Truth and his own power, he could protect this Southern Territory. He might not be able to stop the true experts of the demon race, but he believed that it was impossible for the demon race to invade the Southern Territory with their army. Only with a bargaining chip and strength would he have the confidence to negotiate, and there would be room for reconciliation. When that time came, everything was possible. Time passed day by day. Just as the intelligence said, the demon race army was already gathered and ready to attack. In order to guard against the witch race, the demon race's army formation was quite luxurious this time. Demon Emperor Kuei Tianyuan even personally led the army, greatly boosting the morale of the demon race army. Moreover, they were just sweeping through a mere human territory. The demon race army was relaxed and chatted merrily. To them, humans were just ants. Perhaps these ants had tyrannical vitality and might not be able to kill them with a casual stomp, but that was because they didn't use any strength. Once they used all their strength, humans would definitely die. The memory of the previous defeat against the witch race was still fresh in their minds. This time, they wanted to wipe away their previous humiliation. First, they wanted to use these damned humans as a sacrifice. Flatten the Southern Territory and kill the Lord of the Southern Territory, Lin Feng. Kuei Tianyuan's eyes lit up. He waved his hand and shouted. The experts of the demon race all echoed in unison. Lam Tok Ti, who was beside him, revealed a faint smile. This time, their chances of winning were great. Chapter 1522. In the southern region. It's over. The demons are here. What are you afraid of? We have Emperor Lin. We'll be fine. That's right. I believe in Emperor Lin. Last time, Emperor Lin defeated the entire alliance of 8 human territories. The demons are nothing. That's right. Kill them all. The news spread like wildfire. There was no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. Even though the southern region was in seclusion, the demons were coming straight for the southern region. They did not hide anything. The news had spread from the alliance of 8 human territories to the southern region. Not only were they waiting to see Lin Feng make a fool of himself, they were also kicking him while he was down. However, the alliance of 8 human territories was destined to be disappointed. The southern region did not cause any panic. It was not only because Shun had made preparations for the battle. It was also because Lin Feng was now extremely famous. The battle that was broadcasted on the sky screens had been replayed countless times. Not only did it establish Lin Feng's reputation as an emperor, it also made the people of the southern region worship him. This worship could even be called blind. To the people, their Emperor Lin was invincible. Although there were still many people who were afraid, the vast majority of cultivators were very determined this time. Moreover, even if they left the southern region, where could they go? The alliance of 8 human territories? That was just a lackey of the sorcerer race. Moreover, if the demons could attack the southern region, they could attack other human territories. If the southern region could not defend against the demons' attack, how could the other 8 regions withstand it? Inside the secret room in the Imperial Garden. Pala. The sound of bones breaking and metal clanking could be heard. Lin Feng's eyes slowly lit up. Light flashed around his body. It was exquisite and translucent. It was a set of armor. The color of the armor was mesmerizing. It fit him perfectly, as if every inch and every axis was tailor-made. Boom! Lin Feng punched out fiercely. His eyes sparkled as a smile appeared on his face. Not bad. It fits me perfectly. It doesn't affect my ability at all. Lowering his head, Lin Feng looked at this layer of armor and was very satisfied. This was not a star armor, but a battle armor that was evolved from a shield of truth. Previously, he had wondered if this battle armor would be too cumbersome and would affect his strength. However, it turned out that he had been worrying too much. Although the armor was of high quality, he didn't feel the slightest bit of weight on his body. After all, it was an independent existence. Unlike other star armors, which were tightly integrated with the warrior's body. This was the difference. 1,000 transformations, not bad at all. Lin Feng nodded in satisfaction. This was the second ability of the Shield of Truth, 1,000 transformations, also known as 1,000 transformations. If he wanted to defend himself against the demons, he would have to rely on the absolute 0 defense and 1,000 transformations. Now that he had seen 1,000 transformations, he was even more confident. The 1,000 transformations was unexpectedly full of changes. It wasn't just a shield defense. If he wore the 1,000 transformations battle armor, not only would he have an extremely strong defense, but he would also have the ability of the Shield of Truth itself, illusory counterattack. It was enough to raise his body's defense by a level. Or he could transform into other existences, such as a spear or a flying knife. There were many uses for 1,000 transformations, as expected of a heavenly treasure. It's extraordinary. Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he nodded. Whoosh! The armor on his body flashed, and the Shield of Truth was retracted. Although it only required a bit of astral origin energy, there was no need to waste it now. The news that his clone was outside had already spread. The demons were attacking on a large scale. It was obvious that they weren't lying. There wasn't much time. Right now, he had to seize every minute and second. Fortunately, I comprehended it in time, Lin Feng said softly. He nodded slightly and walked forward. The real challenge had only just begun. The demons were here. They came in a grandiose manner, as if they were afraid that others wouldn't know. This was not only a form of demonstration, but also a form of provocation. Instead of passively estimating whether the shamans would come to participate in the battle, it was better to take the initiative to provoke the shamans and fight again. To Kuei Tianyuan, he couldn't wait for the shamans to dare to accept the challenge and let him wash away his previous humiliation. That defeat made him unable to raise his head. Humans? He had never taken humans seriously. Even when they were attacking the southern region, he didn't pay any attention to them. Humans? Other than being cannon fodder, what else could humans do? Wiping out the southern region was just in passing. How could mere humans stop the vast army of the demon race? However, Kuei Tianyuan was still quite interested in Lin Feng. He had a strength similar to the king of Hades of the north, and could refine the astral treasure chi. This was the first time he had heard of such a human genius. However, interest was interest. To Kuei Tianyuan, his goal was still very clear. He had to kill Lin Feng. In the Peach Garden, heroes gathered. With King Yin as the leader, Shui Mu, Crazy Dao, and the other sage kings of the first batch of God Creation Plan were all present. Even the rising stars of the second batch of God Creation Plan were burning with fighting spirit. Although Lin Feng had yet to arrive, under Shun's arrangements, the warriors were all prepared. In the crowd, there were many familiar faces. Even one macho appeared. The difference was that the other warriors were fighting for the southern region, but he was here for his good brother Lin Feng. The battle with the demon race pointed to disaster, and it was unavoidable. However, the human warriors weren't worried. Instead, they were all very excited, their eyes sparkling. It was finally time to test their strength. They worked hard to cultivate and prove themselves. Wasn't it all for this moment? They were the foundation of the southern region. Lin Feng naturally wasn't in the Peach Garden. The only way to protect the southern region and stop the demon race's invasion was the Shield of Truth. Zero defense. It was definitely a strong defense. However, there was only one biggest restriction. Once a warrior used the zero defense, he would be the center, like the origin of a ball, unable to move. At the moment, Lin Feng was already in the sky above the center of the southern region, his eyes burning. It didn't matter. Even if his main body was restricted, at least his clone was still there. Phew! Lin Feng let out a long sigh of relief and focused. Although he had perfectly comprehended the 1,000 transformations, he hadn't really tried to combine it with the zero defense to form a power strong enough to protect the southern region. Although he was confident, accidents were often unpredictable. However, there was no way out now. He could only take a gamble. Let's begin. Lin Feng's eyes flashed as he suddenly shouted. Seizing the time, the Shield of Truth moved with his heart and instantly extended, like a huge cloud of light, spreading in all directions. 1,000 transformations. Chapter 1523. Southern Region. What's that? What's going on? How did the sky become like this? What a hallucinatory light. A single stone stirred up 1,000 ripples. The appearance of the strange phenomenon caused the entire southern region's people to raise their heads and stare at the sky with wide eyes. At this moment, the color of the sky had completely changed. It should have been dark, but now it was as if it was illuminated by a bright light, forming a transparent and flickering hallucinatory light. It was extremely bizarre. All the warriors were surprised by this strange change and whispered to each other. People walked out of their houses. The quiet night became extremely lively at this moment, but no one knew what was going on. The ordinary people were not the only ones who noticed the change. The first to sense the appearance of the Shield of Truth's zero-degree defense were the Saint Kings. This was the power of a Saint King. Including King Yin, a group of new Saint Kings also noticed the abnormality. The eyes of the experts in the Peach Garden shone brightly, and they were extremely shocked. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. All the experts flew into the sky without hesitation. Although they did not know what this strange light was, no one was afraid. Since they were prepared to fight to the death with the demon race army, they were already prepared to sacrifice themselves. All the experts looked solemn. There must be a demon behind this abnormality. The sudden appearance of the strange phenomenon in the sky seemed to them it was most likely related to the demon race. What a strong power. King Yin floated in the air, flames burning in his hands. His body seemed to be on fire. I can feel a deep pressure when I get close. Shui Mu's eyes were like torches as he said softly, "This light also has some effect on the mind." Dao Feng's expression changed slightly. His body trembled slightly as he gritted his teeth. "The closer I get to it, the more illusions appear in my mind." Dao Feng held a saber in his hand. He had an extreme obsession with sabers. There were pros and cons. It was undoubtedly his fortune to be able to break through to the Saint King level through battle. However, his mind was much inferior to King Yin and Shui Mu. It shouldn't have any evil intentions. The voice was clear and bright. It was a young man who looked like a big boy with a bright smile. Wu Tsong was a Saint King level existence, born from the second batch of God-making plan. He came later, and now his strength was catching up to King Yin and Shui Mu. That's right. Wan Macho also appeared. Her voice was calm, and there was a strange glow in her eyes as she smiled faintly. Among the group, he was the strongest. He had the Zen Spirit Bell, which was ranked 5th among the Douling sovereigns. Wan Macho had the ability to hold her own even in Yin Imperial City. Others might not know, but he felt a sense of familiarity from the luster of the aura. "The shield of reality," Wan Macho murmured. Although she was surprised, she had sensed the aura correctly. Not long ago, he had sparred with Lin Feng and had a deep impression of the shield of truth, which was even stronger than his spirit Zen bell. Shield of truth. The experts looked at Wan Macho with astonishment in their eyes. Many of them even opened their mouths in disbelief. Perhaps they had not sparred with Lin Feng like Wan Macho, but almost all of these Saint Kings had broken through in the same cultivation ground. That training ground was the world that the shield of truth extended out from. Astonishment, shock, and disbelief. Everyone looked at each other, and their expressions were quite rich. At this moment, Hua, an aura as powerful as the heavens, appeared in an instant, breaking the suffocating and frozen atmosphere. He was dressed in a simple and unadorned black martial attire, but he had the aura of an emperor. His appearance was like a dazzling new star, and everyone's attention was focused on him. Lin Feng, Emperor Lin, Emperor Lin. Everyone was overjoyed when they saw Lin Feng, and they were extremely excited. Lin Feng's appearance was like a needle that calmed them down, and the last bit of nervousness and worry they had disappeared without a trace. To them, Lin Feng was not only their talent scout, but also their most respected person. Shui Mu, Wu Tsong, and the other young experts had great respect for Lin Feng. Without Lin Feng's nurturing, they would not be as strong as they were now. "Don't worry, everyone. This is my astral treasure," Lin Feng said softly, dispelling the doubts in everyone's hearts. The experts' worries turned into joy. Seeing such a dazzling treasure with such a strong defensive power, their confidence was undoubtedly boosted. They were Saint Kings, so they could naturally feel how strong the defensive power of this light was. It was also at the Saint King level. How many can it block? Wan Macho looked at Lin Feng, her eyes bright. Lin Feng looked at Wan Macho and smiled, full of confidence. It can block all below the Saint King level. Hua! Everyone was in an uproar, unable to contain their joy. What did this mean? Didn't it mean that the demon army could be blocked outside? Not necessarily. Lin Feng's eyes were bright, and he raised his head to look at the sky. The 0-degree defense, supported by the 1,000 transformations, should have the highest defensive power of the Saint King level. But there was a limit to strength, and so was the defense. The larger the area of the defense, the weaker the defensive power. The 0-degree defense he used now was far weaker than it was in its normal state. It was like a ball of dough that had been stretched and became much thinner. However, the 0-degree defense was, after all, close to the starry sky level. No matter how thin it would not be weaker than the Saint King level. Therefore, he still had a lot of confidence. The only thing he was worried about was the shield of truth. How long could the 0-degree defense last? although the shield of truth consumed the power of heaven and earth, which was the real power of the starry sky world, and his star source power was only a kind of guidance. This was the first time he used it. Even if he was 80% sure, he was not 100% sure. However, we will have to fight the demon race eventually. Lin Feng's eyes flashed, and he murmured softly. His expression was serious, and the fighting spirit of the experts surged. The southern region had been accumulating strength for a long time, and now it was extremely powerful. Just these Saint-level experts and Saint King-level experts' attacks alone could cause great damage to the demon race. However, the demon race's strength was not something the southern region could compare to. The only hope was the demon race could retreat in the face of difficulties. In order to make the demon race retreat in the face of difficulties, the first thing was to show their strength. It was a dark mass. The demon race army arrived in a mighty manner. They did not rush. Under the command of Demon King Kuei Tianyuan, the demon race army slowly advanced towards the southern region. This time, from the preparations before the battle to the gathering of troops and even the deployment of targets, the demon race did not hide anything. It was as if they were telling the witch race that they were going to attack the southern region. This was not only a test by the demon race, but also a provocation to the witch race. The defeat of the ancient southern region caused Kuei Tianyuan to lose face. He could not wait to fight with the witch race again to wash away his shame. However, the witch race did not move at all, as if they did not know anything. Did they really not care about the life and death of the southern region? If they come, they will fall into our trap. Lam Tokti's eyes flickered with confidence. Our demon race army is huge this time. The gutless witch race is probably hiding in the witch race territory. How would they dare to come out? Kuei Tianyuan's eyes were filled with disdain as he said in a deep voice. Even so, it's not a bad thing. Lam Tokti smiled indifferently. Slaughtering the southern region will not only increase the morale of our army, but it will also increase the morale of the ancient race and other humans, especially the ancient race. As long as we could drive a wedge between them and the witch race, we will have an absolute advantage in the battle between the witch race and the witch race. Military advisor is right. Kuei Tianyuan's eyes were filled with ambition. If we want to destroy the witch race, we have to cut off their wings first. They looked at each other and smiled. We're almost there. Kuei Tianyuan's eyes were like torches. The witch race didn't appear. Lam Tokti's expression was calm, as if he had expected it. Could they be hiding in the southern region? Kuei Tianyuan was slightly suspicious. Lam Tokti shook his head. There's no need for that. We're both fighting. If a battle happens in the southern region, it will undoubtedly be a huge disaster for humans. If they want to fight to the death with the demon race, the witch race will definitely make a move on the way. However, since the witch race hasn't appeared, they most likely won't appear again. Kuei Tianyuan's lips curled up. He snorted coldly. What a witch emperor. He's really cold-blooded. It's fine, Lam Tokti said indifferently. Let's follow the original plan. First, we'll destroy the southern region. Then, we'll use the southern region as our foundation and slowly erode the witch race's wings. We'll see when the witch race can't help but attack. This time, we must seize the initiative in our hands. Okay. Kuei Tianyuan's eyes lit up. He clenched his fists and released his aura towards Pang Ran. However, in an instant, Kuei Tianyuan seemed to have sensed something. He was surprised and looked into the distance with confusion in his eyes. Oh, Kuei Tianyuan was extremely surprised. Following Kuei Tianyuan's gaze, Lam Tokti also realized that something was wrong. However, he burst into laughter. The southern region doesn't seem to be willing, Lam Tokti said with a faint smile. A mantis trying to stop a chariot. You're overestimating yourself, Kuei Tianyuan said proudly. The word king on his forehead flashed with rich starlight. In his opinion, the human's meaningless resistance was like stepping on an ant, but the ant was still wriggling. Stupid, ignorant. Raise the war drums. Pass on my order, Kuei Tianyuan shouted fiercely, full of arrogance. Attack the southern region. Kuei Tianyuan roared madly. His expression was unruly and arrogant. To him, occupying the southern region was a trivial matter. How could mere humans compete with a powerful demon race? In a region that lacked even a sage king, the demon race's army would be like a hot knife through butter. Was there a need to be serious when dealing with humans? That was giving them too much credit. Rumble, rumble. The war drums beat loudly, and the wind howled. Roar, roar, roar. The roars of the demon race army echoed from all directions. Their roars were full of pride, and their morale was high. To the demon race, this was like a hunting game. It was extremely fun. Facing the sorcerer tribe, whose strength was not inferior, they might be a little afraid. But these puny humans? It was too easy. Kill. Boom. Boom. The demon race's army attacked the southern region. Chapter 1524. From Kuei Tianyuan's point of view, all he needed to do was to sit quietly and watch the battle unfold. No matter how big the southern region was, the monster army was even more terrifying. There were countless sage and sage kings among them. In less than a day, they could annihilate the human resistance in the southern region. In 3 days, they could slaughter the entire southern region. In 7 days, they could wipe out all the human cultivators in the southern region. His target had never been humans. Although Lin Feng wanted to kill the creator of the Pyrolite, he didn't think that a transcendent being who was as powerful as the King of Hell would be stupid enough to stay in the southern region and wait for him to kill him. Attacking the southern region was to make an example out of the southern region. Secondly, it was to lure the snake out of its hole. Thirdly, it was to get rid of the depressing atmosphere. The southern region was just a stepping stone. However, many times, no matter how good one's plan was, it might not work out. Roar, roar. Furious roars rang out one after another. The monster army seemed to have encountered an obstacle. Kuei Tianyuan frowned. He looked ahead and saw that the layer of light was still there. The monster army was in a mess, but he didn't know what was going on. Strange, Lam Tokti muttered. The development of the situation was beyond their expectations. As their eyes met, Kuei Tianyuan's face turned serious. A faint murderous aura radiated from him, and the king character on his forehead looked even more ferocious. Lin Kuani was also silent, deep in thought. The roars in front of them were endless, and not only did they not show any signs of stopping, they seemed to be increasing in number, each wave higher than the last. The relaxed atmosphere suddenly froze. After a long time, Monster Emperor Kuei-Zhua, who was wearing heavy armor, came over anxiously. Speak. Kuei Tianyuan suppressed his anger. His eyes burned as he gritted his teeth. Kuei-Zhua knelt down on one knee and cupped his hands together. Monster Emperor, there's a strange defensive barrier in front of the southern region. It is blocking us. Once we attack the barrier, illusions will appear. Our monster army will fall into the illusions and many will die. What? Defensive barrier? Illusion? Not only was Kuei Tianyuan startled, but Lam Tokti was also surprised, his eyes slightly shining. How strong is its defense? And how large is its area of coverage? Kuei Tianyuan asked solemnly. Kuei-Zhua said sternly, the defensive power has reached the level of a Saint King, and the area it covers is unknown for the time being. However, the area that we have explored in the southern region is covered by it. Perhaps. Kuei-Zhua gritted his teeth, his expression ugly. According to this subordinate's estimation, the entire southern region is covered by this defensive barrier. Oh. Kuei Tianyuan's eyes lit up as he looked into the distance. At this moment, the demon army was still roaring, and the flashing lights in the distance had not stopped. The most powerful energy technology in the Douling world is the saint-level defense. Lam Tokti spoke in a low voice, his brows slightly furrowed. Furthermore, the energy barrier can't possibly cover the entire southern region. It definitely can't withstand such a consumption. Every moment is a huge consumption. Could it be? Kuei Tianyuan was still looking into the distance, but he interrupted it's also impossible for it to be a heaven-level treasure. Lam Tok Ti nodded thoughtfully. If it's a heaven-level treasure, even the strongest defensive treasure, the Heavenly Dipper Shield, which is ranked 7th in the Doling world, must be controlled and released by the warrior's star source energy. As the monster army charged, the star source energy would have been exhausted long ago. The atmosphere was suffocating and frozen. A huge doubt appeared above Kuei Tanyuan and Lam Tok Ti's heads. They did not understand what was going on. Did you send a Saint King to break through? Kuei Tianyuan suddenly asked. Lam Tok Ti's eyes lit up. According to Kuei, the energy of this defensive barrier was at the level of a Saint King, then a Saint King might. We tried. Kuei's expression was slightly ugly. Although they would also encounter a strong illusion counterattack, a Saint King would be able to break through. But Kuei's tone changed, and he was obviously hesitant. Kuei Tianyuan shouted, "But what? Don't hesitate." Kuei's body trembled slightly, and he bowed. From start to finish, our monster army sent no less than 10 Saint King experts into the southern region, but none of them returned. There was no response, and we don't know if they are dead or alive. Moreover, even if there is a gap in this energy barrier, it will be repaired in an instant. Other than Saint King experts, other Demon Clan experts cannot enter at all. A Saint King level powerhouse would never return. The defensive barrier not only had an illusion, but it could also repair itself in an instant. A chill flashed in Lam Tok Ti's eyes, and his spine was inexplicably cold. A figure inexplicably appeared in his mind, but he quickly shook his head, and his expression was ugly. He thought to himself, "No, it can't be him. He can't have such ability." Although he thought so, Lam Tok Ti was still deeply afraid. According to his experience, this situation was indeed not Lin Feng's doing, but why did his intuition tell him that all these strange phenomena were related to Lin Feng? Thinking of his competition with Lin Feng, his unfathomable nephew had always exceeded everyone's expectations. Could it really be him this time? Lam Tok Ti's expression kept changing, but he did not speak because he knew that the current situation, Kuei Tianyuan would definitely not be able to sit still. With a frosty expression, Kuei Tianyuan was like an enraged tiger, his hair and beard standing up. As a demon emperor, if he could not even defeat a mere southern region, how could he face these humans who were as insignificant as ants? Let's go. Kuei Tianyuan's gaze was resolute, and his aura was completely exposed. The power of a demon emperor suddenly erupted, and Kuei Tianyuan could no longer hold back. He was going to personally take action. Southern region border battlefield. With Lin Feng as the leader, all the Saint and Saint King experts of the human race had gathered. The implementation of the God-making plan had made the originally weak humans much stronger, and a number of Saint experts had sprung up like bamboo shoots after the rain. Perhaps breaking through to the Saint King level was still relatively difficult, but breaking through to the Saint level was not. In the entire Doling world, the number of Star Sea level experts was second only to the Demon Clan. Possessing a sufficiently strong perception and being able to cultivate to the Star Sea level with an ordinary aptitude, the perception of a human would definitely not be lacking. All they needed was a little bit of fortuitous encounter, and they would be able to ride the wind and break through the waves and step into this level that was like a legend. A team of more than 1,000 Saint experts. This was unimaginable in the southern region in the past. Not long ago, when the human experts of the 8 Great Domain Alliance attacked, the southern region's strength was still weak, and they only relied on Lin Feng alone. But now, even if Lin Feng did not take action, just these new rising stars, Saint and Saint King experts, were enough to sweep through the 8 Great Domain Alliance. All of them were young and energetic, and newborn calves were not afraid of tigers. The southern region was now filled with vigor, vitality, and fighting spirit. With Lin Feng as the leader, all the Saint experts were willing to be led and commanded. They were like chopsticks tightly clenched together, and there was not a hint of disloyalty. They were fighting for their hero, Emperor Lin. They were fighting for the southern region. They were fighting for the blood that had flowed in their bodies. They would not retreat, even half a step. Hua! In front of them, the shield of truth flashed, and 3 cracks appeared almost at the same time. The shield of truth was broken again. The range of the 0-degree defense was too large, causing the defense to drop rapidly. There were pros and cons. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Among the human experts, a few figures flashed through the cracks and attacked. On the left, Juan Macho's eyes were filled with ferocity, and she swooped down like a vulture. The power of the Zen spirit bell was overwhelming, and the heavy sound of the bell seemed to strike the depths of one's soul. It made the demon clan experts, who had not completely escaped from the illusion, even worse, and their eyes were blurred. On the right, King Yin and Shui Mu, one fire and one water, worked very well together. The moment the demon clan experts appeared, they were attacked by both ice and fire, and they were in a sorry state. The power of the illusion was still there, and in front of them, the sharp blade light was already whistling. Dao Feng's killing intent was fully revealed. 3 against 1, he had the absolute advantage. However, no matter whether it was the left or the right, they were not as fast as the battle in the middle. It was as fast as lightning. It was like a spear piercing out of the night, twisting the entire space. The demon clan experts, who were deeply affected by the illusion, had just recovered their vision when the surrounding space was completely engulfed. The spear, which stirred up space and lightning, was filled with a strong killing power. It was impossible to dodge. Roar! With an angry roar, the demon clan experts resisted with their strongest attack. However, this was not a battle of strength at all. Lin Feng's clone's physical strength alone was enough to compete with the Sorcerer Emperor, and even surpass him. How could these ordinary Saint King-level demon clan experts resist? The spear was straightforward and blasted the demon clan's defense into pieces. Bang! The explosion of star source energy, accompanied by the roar of power, instantly killed the demon clan experts and turned them into corpses. Instant kill. The current Lin Feng strength was no longer what it used to be. In the face of this level of demon clan experts, killing them one by one was as easy as blowing off dust. At this moment, there were many corpses of demon clan experts around, all of them Saint King level existences. Some were killed by Juan Macho, King Yin, and the others, but more than 80% of them were killed by a single spear. Lin Feng was unbelievably strong. This could be seen from the admiration and envy in the eyes of the human experts behind him. But this time, it seemed a little different. Oh, Lin Feng's eyes widened slightly. The 3 Saint King-level demon clan experts who had been silent for a long time appeared. The moment they entered, 3 more cracks appeared. The original body and the clone were telepathically connected, so the original body naturally knew the demon clan's movements clearly. There's an even stronger aura, Lin Feng thought to himself. The appearance of another 3 cracks was nothing much. In an instant, Thousand Love Emperor had to deal with one of them. Wu Tsong, Pang Mintian, and the other elites of the second batch of God-making plan had to deal with one of them as well. The remaining one was just a piece of cake for him. He's finally coming. Lin Feng's eyes lit up, and the doomsday spear in his hand hummed. The fate of the southern region was not only in his hands, but also in the hands of the most powerful person in the demon clan army. A game. Now, it had reached a critical moment. Chapter 1525. The Blood Tiger Emperor, Kuei Tianyuan. A pair of tiger eyes shone with a thick blood-red light as he looked down from the sky. The demon clan experts stood behind him respectfully. They couldn't see the end of the darkness, but they were completely silent. None of the demon clan experts dared to step forward under the demon emperor's powerful aura. The Blood Tiger clan had the talent of a space Tao. Although the 4 sovereign clans of the demon clan were similar in terms of talent, the Blood Tiger clan was ranked second in terms of combat power. They were even stronger than the Violent Bear clan. However, if the Blood Tiger clan went up against the Witch Emperor, not to mention the Violent Bear clan, Even Fox Princess would be stronger than him. However, Kuei Tianyuan's strength was the real deal. A real emperor. The word king on his forehead shone brightly. Kuei Tianyuan watched as the sage king-level demon clan experts entered one after another. However, none of them came back. He was starting to get angry. The star power shone brightly, making the demon clan experts around him shudder. He couldn't hold it in anymore. Demon Emperor, please reconsider. Lam Tok T's eyes flashed as he bowed and said, I don't believe that a mere human can be so powerful. Kuei Tianyuan's face darkened, and he didn't hide his arrogance. Lam Tok T's eyes flashed. Seeing that his persuasion was ineffective, he didn't say anything else and stood respectfully at the side. Clang! Kuei Tianyuan's star power shone like a star. A layer of blood red appeared on the surface of his body, and a pair of bull horns appeared on his head. Behind Kuei Tianyuan, the phantom of a blood tiger appeared. It was a huge and strange demon beast. It had the body of a tiger, the horns of a bull, and a pair of huge wings that were as sharp as blades. Boom! The heavens and earth shook. Kuei Tianyuan roared as he flew out. His huge wings could cut the space apart, let alone the weak shield of reality. The Demon Emperor had arrived. He's here. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Clang! The doomsday spear in his hand flashed with a strong light, and his fighting spirit was clear. It was as if he could feel it himself, and the weapon was psychic. A Wolf Clan Saint King was torn apart by the doomsday spear. His eyes were wide open and filled with unwillingness, but he had already become a dead soul under the spear. He was deader than dead. Before him, there were already more than 10 Saint King-level Demon Clan cultivators who had died tragically at the hands of Lin Feng. None of his subordinates were his match. Saint King Realm, in Lin Feng's eyes, had once seemed so far out of reach, but now he could easily kill one. However, the real Saint Kings were not the warriors who had just stepped into this level. They were the supreme existences who stood at the peak of the pyramid, such as Shaman Emperor Jiang, the great saint commander of the demon clan, the bull demon, the 7 great ancient gods of the ancient race, and so on. Now, another one had appeared before him. Whoosh! Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He didn't need to see or feel anything. His main body had already transmitted the most accurate and unmistakable information. He had come. The Blood Tiger Emperor, Kuei Tianyuan. Boom! Lin Feng's eyes burned, and his energy exploded. The power of a high-level Saint King was fully displayed. His strength was only a hair's breadth away from a peak Saint King. In his body, the flow of his blood was sometimes fast and sometimes slow. Streams of metal origin energy emerged. In his cells and blood, the power of the ancient divine beast Thunder Centipede slowly surged out. His body trembled slightly. A new talent, Thunder Centipede's true body. Z. His body trembled and changed. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. At first, Thunder Centipede's true body could only change in the Jade Palace. Later, it could also change in the outside world, but it couldn't be controlled. In these few months, day after day, he had already begun to see results. Not only could he easily change into Thunder Centipede's true body, he could also control his new body. Although it wasn't 100%, it was more than 90%. The metal origin was extremely powerful. With a physique that had reached the limit of the Do spirit world, coupled with the tyrannical aptitude of the ancient divine beast Thunder Centipede, the strength of his doppelganger had already reached a new level. Just like the mystery Blood Phoenix, it was a comprehensive ability enhancement. However, it was not a mystery, but an ability that belonged to the user. To be more precise, it was the power of blood that his master Lei Meng had passed down. When the potential was stimulated in the Jade Palace, the ability would be revealed. Potential strength, open. There was no need to hesitate, and there was no need to bargain. When dealing with a monster race, the simplest thing was fight. The monster race only valued strength. Rumble. The shield of truth shook violently, and a huge crack appeared in its 0-degree defense. Kuei Tianyuan's eyes turned red. He had underestimated the shield of truth, and had used too much strength to break through its 0-degree defense. The stronger the attack, the stronger the shield of truth's counterattack. Even if Kuei Tianyuan was a monster emperor, the monster race's soul attacks had always been weak. Roar! Kuei Tianyuan roared, his hair standing on end. He frantically tried to get rid of the illusions. However, even if he used all his strength, his reaction was still too slow. He had only gotten rid of half of the illusions when he felt a terrifying force coming at him like lightning. Kuei Tianyuan's expression changed drastically. Impossible. That was Kuei Tianyuan's first reaction. In his opinion, it was impossible for such a powerful being to exist in the human world. He didn't even think much of the creator of Pyrolite, Lin Feng. So what if he was as strong as Hades North? His strength was comparable to Sacred Master Cloud's spear. How could Hades North compare to him? But the current situation was beyond his expectations. His astral origin energy was terrifying, and his spear technique was comparable to Sacred Master Cloud spears. Most terrifying of all was the aggressive battle intent. It covered the sky and covered the earth, completely enveloping him. It felt as if an inescapable net had been set up, waiting for him to come. Once he made his move, he would know if it was real or not. Damn it! It was too late for Kuei Tianyuan to regret. He had underestimated his enemy. However, it was useless to regret now. He had no way out. Space shatter. Kuei Tianyuan made up his mind. His strength instantly exploded. He knew very well how serious the consequences of being ambushed would be, especially when his opponent was so powerful. The astral origin energy intertwined, and his talent was displayed. The space around Kuei Tianyuan seemed to shatter into pieces. Even he seemed to have entered the shattered space. It seemed like he was defending or dodging, but he was neither. Impressive, Lin Feng thought. His body seemed to have been sucked into a strange space turbulence. It was hard for him to maintain his balance. It was difficult for him to use his spear technique completely. His realm seemed to have shattered along with the space. His surroundings twisted like a whirlpool. Everything became different. The Blood Tiger Emperor was indeed extraordinary. However, his attack was like an arrow that had been shot. It couldn't come back. In front of him, Kuei Tianyuan's figure seemed to be distorted. However, the shattered space made him disappear. He couldn't be sure. Lin Feng gritted his teeth. His eyes were burning. Kuei Tianyuan's strength was stronger than he had imagined. Under such circumstances, he still had the ability to turn something rotten into something magical. Now that he had the upper hand, if Kuei Tianyuan managed to turn the tables, it would definitely not be good news for him and the southern region. If he wanted to have the right to speak, he must have the absolute advantage. The demon race used their fists to speak. Let's go all out. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. His speed suddenly increased. In the blink of an eye, he reached his maximum speed. But Lin Feng was surprised. The feeling of reaching his maximum speed this time was completely different from before. His speed was originally about 3 times higher than the limit of the Doling world. After the Thunder transformation reality, the comprehensive strengthening, including speed, explosiveness, and strength, was at least 3 times higher. If he could activate his current speed, it should be about 10 times the limit of the Doling world. This feeling was very strange. Originally, when his speed reached its maximum, he would be pressured. But now, he did not feel pressured at all. Was it because of the Thunder transformation reality? No. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He instantly understood. It was because of the shattered space. The current space was no longer the real space of the Doling world. It was a kind of half-virtual reality. It was a space system constructed between the Doling world and the space turbulence. It was already a shattered existence. How could it shatter again? Therefore, even though his speed had reached its maximum, he did not feel pressured at all. So, I can still increase it. Lin Feng's eyes lit up completely. He was overjoyed. His speed instantly increased. Oomph. Kuei Tianyuan's lips curved into a cold arc. More than half of the illusions in front of him had disappeared following the activation of the shattered space. All he could see was a sea of light. Even though the shattered space affected himself and consumed a lot of energy, at least he had stopped the opponent's ambush. He only needed to use a little energy to turn the situation around. Soon, he would be able to counterattack. In this shattered space, he could definitely unleash stronger strength and adaptability than his opponent. Kuei Tianyuan was full of confidence. But in an instant, his expression changed drastically. The shattered space instantly lengthened the distance between them. His opponent's speed was unbelievably fast. He was originally as fast as lightning. After the shattered space, he was so fast that he could not even be seen. Bang! 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 His heart beat violently. Kuei Tianyuan felt a real threat this time. The threat of death. How is this possible? Kuei Tianyuan was completely stunned. His expression was extremely ugly. However, the spear intent in front of him was awe-inspiring. A light shadow appeared instantly. Kuei Tianyuan roared crazily. At this moment, there was no way to dodge. He had to use his true defensive power. This was a true confrontation between spear and shield. This was a true competition of strength. They met on a narrow path. Boom! The space shook violently. Bang! There was a violent collision. The surrounding human experts' expressions changed. Even the demon experts who were still in the midst of a fierce battle were affected. The terrifying attack power had already exceeded the level of a Sage King. As Lin Feng and the Blood Tiger Emperor fought, the battle between the demon experts and the human experts also came to an end. At this moment, both sides were divided into two sides. Their gazes were focused. A battle between the strong and the strong. A battle between emperors. A battle between the true dragon heads. Who would win? The surroundings were silent. The demon experts and the human experts were all looking at the center, where the violent explosion was. At this moment, a light shadow flashed. The space shattered, and a sizzling aurora appeared. It was as if a huge pit had appeared. It made people's hearts tremble. Chapter 15:26. They couldn't see clearly. To the human and demon experts present, Lin Feng and the Blood Tiger Emperor's level was too high. Even Wan Macho and Thousand Love Empress could barely see what was going on. The shattered space had already obstructed their vision, and the difference in strength between them and Wan Macho made viewing a luxury. They could only see light and shadows, and they could see the power beyond the Holy King level. But the real situation of the battle was still confusing. What was the real situation of the battle? Roar. A furious roar. Kuei Tianyuan was covered in blood, and his injuries were quite serious. The king character on his forehead had already dimmed a little, and it was stained with blood. This could be said to be quite rare for Kuei Tianyuan. He had never been forced into such a situation. He was the Blood Tiger Emperor, but now he was being chased and beaten by a human warrior, and he didn't even have the strength to fight back. Although he had hurt Lin Feng a little with his counterattacks, he knew clearly that his opponent's injuries were far less than his, because in the whole battle, he was being suppressed. Whoosh! Whoosh! The wind was blowing and the crane was panicking. Kuei Tianyuan's heart was beating fast, and his face was pale. He seemed to be in a trance. His opponent's speed could be described as ghostly, so fast that he couldn't even catch a trace of him. In this broken space, the one who had the absolute advantage was not him, but Lin Feng, whose face he hadn't even seen until now. Panting, Kuei Tianyuan kept spinning around, panting like a snake. He was completely chased and beaten by this Lin Feng, and he couldn't even determine the direction of the attacks. He almost died several times. If it weren't for his rich combat experience, he wouldn't have just been injured. He would have lost his life at any moment. Even if he didn't want to admit it, Kuei Tianyuan was deeply afraid of this human who he had never met before. He just hadn't revealed his trump card. ZZZ, ZZZ. The broken space was being restored little by little. The ghostly figures around him became even more terrifying. Amidst the resplendent starlight, the light of the Doomsday Spear was terrifying and intense. The Starry Sky level spear art concept carried a strong murderous aura that was not concealed in the slightest. Lin Feng came with a thick, murderous aura. His target was clear and direct. Those who offend the southern region will never be forgiven. So strong. Amazing. So this is Emperor Lin's strength. The eyes of the human powerhouses lit up, unable to hide their excitement. As the shattered space slowly reassembled, the scene of the battle gradually became clearer. Lin Feng's figure was still vigorous and ghostly as he roamed freely in the heavens and the earth with his spear. Even though the battle armor on his body was extremely strange, it was still unable to conceal his confidence, calmness, and awe-inspiring killing intent. He was the southern region's king, human sovereign Lin Feng. Different from the excitement and worship of the human experts, the Demon Clan experts were completely stunned and stood rooted to the ground. They never would have thought that the revered Blood Tiger Emperor would end up in such a state. He was being suppressed by a human expert and even revealed his true form. His entire body was covered in blood, and he was battered and exhausted. The battle scene was completely under the control of the other party. The word miserable was not enough to describe him. Even the weakest cultivator could tell who had the upper hand and who was at a disadvantage in the current situation. It was very obvious. This was not a battle of equal strength. Instead, it was a battle of great disparity in strength. And the one with the great disparity in strength was the Blood Tiger Emperor, Kuei Tianyuan. In fact, Lin Feng's true strength was not only not stronger than Kuei Tianyuan's, but more accurately, he was inferior. This could be seen from the fact that Lin Feng still had not defeated Kuei Tianyuan, even though he had the absolute advantage. Although he had used all his strength, Kuei Tianyuan had stubbornly held on to the end despite the unfavorable situation. One had to admit that his strength was tyrannical. The Blood Tiger Emperor's strength was not what the experts had seen. Kuei Tianyuan was too unlucky. First, he was affected by the illusion of the shield of reality. Then he used space shattering and dug a hole for himself to jump into. He did not know that in terms of true speed, even which Emperor Jiang might not be able to match Lin Feng in the entire Douling world. Especially after using the Thunder Ferocious True Body, Lin Feng's speed could be said to be abnormal. Monstrous speed. It exceeded the limit of speed by more than 10 times. Just like in the Battle of the Witch Realm, which Emperor Jiang was able to defeat the demon race commander because of the perfect balance of the space Tao. Now, Lin Feng was able to defeat Kuei Tianyuan for the same reason. In terms of speed, Kuei Tianyuan could not even unleash 30% of his true strength. He could only barely defend himself by counterattacking. Cheat. The surrounding lights and shadows were continuous, like bayonets that saw blood. Kuei Tianyuan's face was ghastly pale. Cold sweat kept dripping down. He spun his body like a top. His willpower was on the verge of collapse. Kuei Tianyuan was constantly on guard against Lin Feng's unexpected attack. His eyes were red. His huge body was now a burden. Blood flowed out of his body, and his strength was severely depleted. He was already standing on the edge of the cliff. Disappointment, fear, and even despair gradually rose to the surface of his heart. When would Lin Feng's attack come? Kill or not kill? To Lin Feng, a choice had already appeared in front of him. Hua! Lin Feng's eyes were bright. He was actually an arrow at the end of its flight, but compared to Kuei Tianyuan, he was still better. Not only did he have the advantage, but also because of his strong physique. His recovery speed was much better than Kuei Tianyuan's. He kept spinning, not because he wanted to destroy Kuei Tianyuan's fighting spirit, but because he was hesitating. If he wanted to kill Kuei Tianyuan, this was undoubtedly the best opportunity. He was more than 50% confident that he could keep Kuei Tianyuan in the southern region forever and make him die unwillingly. Once Kuei Tianyuan died, the demon army would have no leader and would definitely disperse. At that time, the southern region's crisis would be resolved. But what would happen next? Humph! Lin Feng exhaled deeply. His expression was serious. If he was alone, killing him would not be a big deal. However, with the temperament of the demons, If he killed Kuei Tianyuan today, there would be a grudge between them. He believed that it would not be long before the demon army would come again. Would the southern region be so lucky next time? Would he be able to stop the next demon expert? Kuei Tianyuan might not know, but he knew that his victory this time was completely due to luck. If not for Kuei Tianyuan digging his own grave, he would not have lost so miserably. However, if another demon emperor or even a demon commander came next time, what would his chances be? The answer was obvious. Sometimes there were many things that had to be taken. Killing the enemy might not be the best choice. It's over. Fear appeared in Kuei Tianyuan's mind. He gritted his teeth and was ready to use his last trump card. Even if his vitality was greatly damaged, at least it was better than losing his life. The surrounding murderous aura completely enveloped him. The shattered space was like a tomb that was going to bury him. However, suddenly, like smoke dissipating, everything stopped in an instant. Time seemed to have stopped at that moment. The original murderous aura and terrifying aura disappeared without a trace. The wind was calm, and the clouds were clear. It was as if the raging waves had turned into a thin stream and calmed down inexplicably. Kuei Tianyuan's rising despair instantly found an outlet and disappeared. He hit his trump card quietly, and his blood-red eyes revealed a hint of confusion. What was going on? This question not only appeared in Kuei Tianyuan's mind, but also in the minds of all the human and demon experts. Lin Feng was about to clinch victory, and Kuei Tianyuan was about to die without a burial place. However, the battle inexplicably stopped. No one knew what had happened, and it ended without a cause. Zap! Zap! The shattered space reassembled bit by bit. Without the impact of the force, the reassembling speed was much faster. As if glued together, the shattered space slowly rolled up and returned to its original state in an instant. Kuei Tianyuan's eyes were cold as he looked ahead and gritted his teeth. It was a proud figure with a long spear in his hand. A cold light was faintly discernible, and the murderous aura he emitted was no longer underestimated. Even if he was just a human warrior, but he was stronger than the Blood Tiger Emperor. The demon race valued the strong the most. Everything was done with strength, with fists. What do you want? Kuei Tianyuan finally spoke. His voice did not contain any arrogance. Although it was a question, it lacked some confidence when it fell on the ears. It was a little different from usual. After experiencing life and death, Kuei Tianyuan actually had a seed in Lin Feng's heart. The name of that seed was fear. I should be the one asking you that. Lin Feng suddenly spoke, his eyes shining. The southern region is in seclusion and has already left the sorcerer tribe's camp. Why is the demon race still unwilling to let us go and insist on killing the southern region? This, Kuei Tianyuan was speechless. His blood-red eyes rolled around, as if he was thinking deeply about Lin Feng's words. As one of the 4 demon emperors of the demon race, Kuei Tianyuan and Niu Yunlei were the true leaders of the demon race. They were skilled in both literature and martial arts, and they did not lack strategy. He could hear a lot from Lin Feng's words. What a joke. Kuei Tianyuan snorted coldly. His aura was not weaker than Lin Feng's. He said in a deep voice, "There's a saying among humans. In the open, we build a path, but in the dark, we build a path. The southern region said that you will not participate in the war, but you are secretly cultivating your strength." As he spoke, Kuei Tianyuan glanced at the human warriors behind Lin Feng. He was actually quite surprised. In his impression, when did humans become so strong? Not to mention the number of saint-level warriors. Even the number of saint-level warriors was more than double digits. Although they could not be compared to the sorcerer race and the ancient race, the change was big enough. Cultivating the warriors of this region is only for self-protection. Lin Feng said proudly, "I have already offended the sorcerer race, and the southern region has broken ties with the human alliance. Naturally, I will not do anything sneaky." Kuei Tianyuan's eyes darkened. He said coldly, "Then how do you explain the astral treasure, Qi? This is even more nonsense." Lin Feng sneered disdainfully. "Why would I, Lin Feng, do such a thankless thing? Someone is deliberately trying to sow discord, driving the wolf to chase the tiger. I believe that with the judgment of the Demon Emperor, you should know who that person is and what their intentions are. Oh, Kuei Tianyuan muttered to himself. Actually, he was just looking for a way out. Whether it was Lin Feng or Kuei Tianyuan, they all had a clear consensus. Continuing to fight would not benefit either side. Chapter 1527. I hope the Demon Emperor will be wise. Lin Feng nodded and said. His voice was neither servile nor overbearing, but he slightly gave Kuei Tianyuan enough face. The current outcome was far beyond his expectations. In his previous imagination, perhaps they would have to fight to the death, use all their trump cards, and even be on the verge of death to have a chance of easing the tension. However, at this moment, it was equivalent to a bloodless battle, and the effect was surprisingly good. From Kuei Tianyuan's expression, he was obviously shocked by his strength. How could he know that his strength was far from what he had seen? If they fought again, he would not be able to use 10 times his maximum speed, and the situation would be reversed. Kuei Tianyuan's strength was also stronger than he had imagined. The 4 great demon emperors lived up to their reputation. First, it was Xiong Bao, then Kuei Tianyuan, each stronger than the last. Okay, I'll believe you this time. Kuei Tianyuan's eyes burned as he looked at Lin Feng. In fact, to him, it did not matter whether Lin Feng was telling the truth or not. There was no need to say too much, and they had already formed a consensus. Moreover, he was seriously injured at this moment, and there was no benefit in continuing to fight. Even if his reputation was damaged, retreating was his only choice. Preserving his life was the most important thing. Lin Feng smiled faintly, and the human powerhouses behind him also revealed faint joy in their eyes. The current situation could not be better for the southern region. In a battle where there was a great disparity in strength, not only did the southern region have the upper hand, but more importantly, their losses were almost zero. Other than a few Sage King-level powerhouses who were injured, not a single warrior died. On the contrary, the Demon Clan had suffered heavy losses, and there were already 20 Sage King-level corpses on the ground. Let's go, Kuei Tianyuan shouted, his expression ugly. He turned around abruptly and was about to lead the Demon Clan powerhouses back, a fierce light flashing in his eyes. A wise man knew better than to fight when the odds were against him. Of course, he had to take revenge, and Lin Feng had to be killed. However, it was not too late to lead the army back then. But wait a minute. The sudden voice behind him made Kuei Tianyuan's eyes turn cold, and he clenched his teeth. It was none other than Lin Feng. Could it be that the Demon Emperor wants to leave just like that? Lin Feng said indifferently. Behind his calm smile, there was a hint of wisdom. The hand behind his back quietly stretched out a finger. Thousand Love Emperor's eyes flashed as she understood Lin Feng's intention. If not, what are you going to do? Kuei Tianyuan turned around, his eyes cold. Although it was ice cold, it was difficult to hide the fact that it was fierce in appearance, but weak in heart. Demon Emperor must be joking. Lin Feng's voice was calm, but his tone did not yield in the slightest. His murderous intent slowly leaked out, but he would not let it go so easily. If he let Kuei Tianyuan leave like this, and then let his troops in, he would become a laughingstock. If I were to lead my troops into the Demon Clan's territory and say that it was a misunderstanding, would you be able to swallow this anger? Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. Even if I am willing to swallow my anger, the experts of the southern region might not be willing to. The sound of his landing was like a clap of thunder on the ground. In an instant, the human experts led by King Yin all responded in unison, their cooperation extremely tacit. Their fighting spirit was awe-inspiring. Even if they were facing the Demon Clan rankers who were famous for their ferocity, they did not have the slightest intention of backing down. The current human race was no longer the same as before. They were no longer the weak race that fawned over the Witch Clan and struggled at death's door. Now, They truly had their own backbone, their own faith, and their own heroes. No one would look down on them again. Shua, Kuei Tianyuan's face immediately turned pale. The fear hidden under his ferocious expression slowly emerged from the bottom of his heart. Facing thousands of human experts, facing Lin Feng, who was even stronger than him, Kuei Tianyuan gritted his teeth. At this moment, his heart was extremely conflicted, like meat on a chopping board. He was not the only one. The remaining 6 Demon Clan rankers were also afraid from the bottom of their hearts. The Demon Clan valued experts the most. With Lin Feng's strength in front of them, how could they not be afraid? What exactly do you want? Kuei Tianyuan's voice was hoarse, and he was almost shouting. Although his voice was heavy, there was no domineering aura of a demon emperor. Instead, there was a sense of compromise and a feeling of being at the mercy of others. When Lin Feng heard this, he smiled. Nothing much, Lin Feng said indifferently. His gaze swept across the Demon Clan rankers and finally landed on Kuei Tianyuan. He said slowly, although it is a misunderstanding, the southern region has suffered a great disaster and suffered heavy losses. This matter was caused by the Demon Clan. Shouldn't the Demon Emperor say something? That was a blatant robbery. Kuei Tianyuan's face darkened, and he cursed in his heart. He naturally understood what Lin Feng meant, but he was lying through his teeth. He did not see any losses in the southern region, but the Demon Clan had suffered heavy losses. However, Lin Feng's words were not without reason. It was obvious that if he wanted to leave, he would have to pay a price. What do you want? Kuei Tianyuan's eyes were cold. Treasures, Lin Feng said indifferently. Khanate treasures should not be of much use to the Demon Emperor. The Demon Clan relied more on their own talents to fight, and they rarely relied on Khanate treasures. Although they could indeed merge with Khanate treasures, their merging speed was slower than that of the Sorcerer tribe, Ancient tribe, and even humans. Their understanding and mastery of Khanate treasures were also much weaker. This was not the Demon Clan's strength. This time, the Demon Clan's large-scale attack had swept across the land and even destroyed the ancient southern region. They must have obtained many Khanate treasures. He knew this very well. Okay. Kuei Tianyuan gritted his teeth and nodded, killing intent flashing in his eyes. So what if he gave it to him? Sooner or later, he would take it back. Without hesitation, Kuei Tianyuan instantly took out a crystal diamond ring and flew it to Lin Feng. Ha! Lin Feng reached out and took it. A strand of astral source energy entered it, and his eyes lit up. In his senses, there were no less than 10 natural treasures. Although their grades weren't very high, there were numerous experts in the southern region, and they lacked natural treasures the most. After all, a natural treasure that was perfectly compatible with a cultivator's body was more than a few times more beneficial to a cultivator. That's it. Kuei Tianyuan was filled with anger. He turned and left. However, behind him, the strong killing intent did not disappear at all. Instead, it increased rapidly. He didn't say anything, but Lin Feng's meaning was clear. As long as he dared to take a step forward, Lin Feng would attack him relentlessly. Lin Feng, don't go too far. Kuei Tianyuan's forehead was full of black lines. His body was trembling with anger. So what if I am? Lin Feng had already stopped smiling. He looked at Kuei Tianyuan indifferently and said in a deep voice, Demon Emperor, you should know that if I want to keep you here today, none of you will be able to leave the southern region. His tone was calm, but there was a strong threat in it. Lin Feng was unscrupulous. When facing the Demon Clan, there was no need to show weakness. They would not fall for it. The Demon Clan had always been open to force, but not persuasion. Kuei Tianyuan was gritting his teeth. It was obvious that he was suppressing his anger. He looked like a prisoner. He did not look like a demon emperor at all. However, Lin Feng's tone suddenly changed. He said coldly, Today, I will give you face, demon emperor. Let's call it quits. We will not interfere in each other's business in the future. Kuei Tianyuan's face twitched. He did not know what Lin Feng was up to. However, I do not need to give face to the other demon clans. Lin Feng's eyes were full of killing intent. I did not want to give face to them either. Demon Emperor, you can leave, but the... Lin Feng's gaze swept across the remaining 6 sage, king-level demon clan experts. He said in a deep voice, all of them stay here. What? Kuei Tianyuan's expression changed. The remaining 6 Saint King Realm Monster Clan masters were also shocked, their faces filled with panic. They knew very well what it meant to stay here. Only death awaited them. All the Demon Clan experts focused their attention on Kuei Tianyuan. However, the latter's expression changed drastically. He was clearly considering his gains and losses. Lin Feng's condition was not bad for him. Even if he left this place, Kuei Tianyuan would still secretly kill these Demon Clan experts. Face was the most important thing. How could the other Demon Clans know that he was in such an embarrassing state after being trampled by mere humans? Who could guarantee that these Demon Clan experts would keep their mouths shut today? The best way was to kill them. Hua! Kuei Tianyuan's eyes suddenly turned cold. A bright light flashed in his eyes. The king character on his forehead was shining brightly. With a loud roar, a terrifying aura was released. It was like a ferocious tiger dashing down the mountain. A violent ring of light exploded and blasted towards the remaining 6 sage, king-level demon clan experts. Boom! Boom! There was a violent explosion. The remaining 6 demon clan experts were shocked. They did not expect Kuei Tianyuan to attack them. Bearing the brunt of the attack, the 2 demon clan experts at the front were instantly killed. Even though they were severely injured, Kuei Tianyuan's strength was not something that these few Demon Clan experts could withstand. Although the other 4 Demon Clan experts tried their best to resist, the terrifying power roared, and they were in imminent danger. But bang! A surge of energy instantly appeared, and the image of the roaring tiger in the air shattered like a mirror. The 4 Demon Clan experts widened their eyes in shock. They looked at the black-robed, spear-wielding human expert in the sky. Their chests rose and fell violently. They were completely confused. What was going on? He's gone, Lin Feng said calmly as he looked forward. His main body had sent him accurate information. Kuei Tianyuan had just broken through the shield of truth's defense and left. It was quite selfish. However, it was the nature of the Demon Clan. In order to survive, Kuei Tianyuan had completely thrown his pride out the window. After swallowing such a bitter pill and being humiliated, he will definitely not let it go. Qian Lian Huang stood beside him calmly. A strange light flashed in her hand. Lin Feng looked at Qian Lian Huang's hand and smiled. Make a copy of this video and hand it to him. I believe that as long as he is the Demon King, the southern region will not have to fear the Demon Clan. Until the end of the war of the Witch Demon Clan. They looked at each other and smiled. Kuei Tianyuan had suffered a great loss this time. Chapter 1528. Ancestral Magus Hall. What? Magus Emperor Dijiang jumped to his feet in shock. A rare emotion appeared on his face. Hundun's face paled slightly as the news was too shocking. The demonic beast race retreated. How is that possible? Lin Feng, this human isn't simple. Shi Jiuyin said gloomily. Killing intent flickered in his eyes. The atmosphere was heavy. Dijiang fell into deep thought, and he felt this outcome was inconceivable. In fact, he had ordered Gomong to lead the army. As long as Lin Feng asked him for help, the Magus race's army would rush to the southern region to fight the demonic beast race to the death. Perhaps they would suffer heavy casualties, but as long as they could get Lin Feng, the sacrifice was worth it. Another possibility was that the southern region was destroyed by the demonic beast race. With Lin Feng's personality, he would live and die with the southern region. At that time, he could snatch Lin Feng back from the demonic beast race's hands, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. But who would have thought that the plan could not keep up with the changes? The demonic beast race had inexplicably retreated. Is there any other news? Dijiang looked at Hutu and asked solemnly. This? Hutu hesitated, frowning slightly. The distance is too far, so I don't know the details. I only know that the demonic beast race did not launch a proper attack. According to the southern region sources, there was a defensive barrier around the southern region that remained intact until the end of the war. Defensive barrier? Dijiang pondered. What kind of defensive barrier can block the demonic beast race's army? Shi Jiuyin harumphed coldly. That's just ignorant humans making a fuss over nothing. The truth is, the demonic beast race did not attack. Huta glanced at Shi Jiuyin and said indifferently. That's because of other reasons, for example. Shi Jiuyin's eyes turned cold. Lin Feng surrendered to the demonic beast race in exchange for an ignoble existence when he saw that there was no hope. As he said, he nodded in realization. He deeply felt that this possibility was indeed not small. Even Hutu and Dijiang were deep in thought. Indeed, it wasn't impossible. Compared to Hutu's suspicion of using a defensive barrier to stop the demonic beast race, this suspicion was much more reasonable. Even if the humans asked for help from the shaman tribe might not be able to defeat the demon tribe. If they surrendered to the demon tribe in exchange for the survival of a small corner. So what if they had to pay a price? If that's the case, then I'm afraid it's a great disadvantage for our sorcerer tribe, Hutu said worriedly. As a shaman king and a trusted aide of Dijiang, he was similarly aware of the importance of the southern region. To be precise, it was the importance of Lin Feng. Qi was a terrifying existence that could change the course of a war. It's just a guess, Dijiang said in a low voice. But we have to be cautious. Shi Jiuyin's eyes were frosty as he added, why don't we try the southern region? What do you mean? Dijiang's eyes flashed. Since the demonic beasts can't take them down, then let us do it. The corner of Shi Jiuyin's lips curved into a cold sneer. If the soft approach doesn't work, we'll use the hard approach. If Lin Feng is really in cahoots with the demonic beast clans, the demonic beast clans will definitely come to his rescue when we attack. What if the demons don't save him? Huta asked doubtfully. That's even better. Shi Jiuyin sneered. We can use the southern region as a threat, coercing Lin Feng to refine the astral treasure qi for us. Dijiang nodded with satisfaction, then went on, but the demonic beast clans are eyeing us like a tiger watching its prey. If we do this, we will definitely attract their attention. There's no point in hurting ourselves for a mere southern region. Handing this task over to the 8 Great Human Territories Alliance can prevent internal strife from affecting the ancient races and also guard against the demonic beast clans. 8 Great Human Territories Alliance? Shi Jiuyin frowned. As far as he knew, the last time the 8 Great Human Territories Alliance attacked the southern region, it had ended in failure. Only a short time had passed. How could it be possible? With Gomong as the commander and Rushu as the general, lead a group of sorcerer tribes experts to assist the 8 Great Human Territories Alliance. Dijiang's expression was calm, but he was cold-blooded and merciless, disregarding his friendship with Lin Feng. He would do anything to achieve his goal. He had always been an ambitious and ruthless person. Jubilant. With Lin Feng as the leader, the southern region's experts were exhilarated. They had defeated the demonic beast clans. The demonic beast clans that even the sorcerer tribe couldn't defeat had broken their wings in front of them, returning empty-handed. This was a golden victory, proving that the demonic beast clans weren't invincible in the Douling world. It also proved that human cultivators weren't a weak race. This was a glorious victory, but the real war had just begun. Although the demonic beast clans have suffered a loss, and their threat is gone, I'm afraid the culprit behind this will not let this matter rest. Qian Lianhuang's beautiful brows furrowed slightly as she looked at Lin Feng. She was one of the few people who remained calm, while all the experts were happily discussing the battle just now and were extremely excited. I know, Lin Feng nodded. A light glimmered in his eyes. Then what do you plan to do? Qian Lianhuang asked. Haven't thought about it yet. Lin Feng smiled and shrugged. I'll deal with it as it comes. I believe the sorcerer tribe won't be so determined to swallow me whole. That's true. Qian Lianhuang smiled slightly. The corners of Lin Feng's mouth curled up as he glanced at the human warriors. They were all black, completely different from before. He sighed softly and said, "The southern region is no longer what it used to be. Every once in a while, there will be new blood appearing. Saint Realm, Saint Realm, and even Saint King Realm, with a large number of anyone who wants to touch us will have to think twice." Qian Lianhuang smiled and nodded. "There's also you, a human sovereign whose strength is comparable to a demon sovereign." Lin Feng smiled faintly and didn't explain. Although he was quite lucky to defeat Kuei Tianyuan, his strength was indeed close to that of a demon sovereign. After all, Kuei Tianyuan was the famous Blood Tiger Emperor, and his strength was second only to Niu Yunlei among the 4 demon sovereigns. If he didn't have enough strength as a foundation, so what if he was lucky? The southern region was no longer what it used to be, but so was he. Come, forget about that. Lin Feng smiled and nodded at Qian Lianhuang. "It's rare to have such a great victory. Let's go and celebrate." As he spoke, he strode towards the jubilant crowd. Qian Lianhuang's beautiful eyes sparkled as she followed with a smile. The current Lin Feng was truly human sovereign in the southern region. Have you heard? The 8-region alliance has launched an attack again. TSK, they're just clowns. They've forgotten the pain after the scars have healed. Last time, Emperor Lin beat them up so badly that even their parents couldn't recognize them. It's different this time. I heard that Emperor Lin offended the Sorcerer Sovereign. This time, the Sorcerer Sovereign personally gave the order to send Sorcerer Kings to assist the 8-region alliance in wiping out the southern region. They're aggressive and powerful. We can't underestimate them. So what? With Emperor Lin around, we don't have to be afraid. That's right. Previously, the Demon Clan was aggressive. What happened in the end? Isn't he still going home? In the streets and alleys, in the tea houses and taverns, all sorts of rumors were spreading. 1 spread to 10, 10 spread to 100. Of course, there were those who created malicious rumors, but there were more who followed the trend and passed on the information. However, there weren't many who were truly shaken. In the southern region, Emperor Lin's name was as prestigious as the heavens. Even though the person in charge of the initial tribe was called a tyrant, Lin Feng's name was well-deserved. He defeated the 8-region alliance single-handedly and established his reputation. He fought against the Demon Clan and stabilized the southern region. Lin Feng sat on the throne and won the hearts of the people. This could be seen from the fact that there wasn't a single person outside the teleportation portal. The southern region was like a solid castle, unbreakable, mighty and mighty. With Go Meng, who was the strongest commander among the 12 Shaman Kings, as the commander, and Shaman King Rushu, who was extremely aggressive, as the general, as well as a large number of elites from the Sorcerer tribe. The 8-region alliance was full of confidence this time. As the alliance leader, Zhuo Bufan was radiant. He had forgotten the pain of the previous defeat, which made him lose face and almost lose his position as the alliance leader. This time, he was full of confidence. Even 1/10 of such a force was enough to wipe out the entire human territory. There were as many as 15 Sage Kings among the Sorcerer tribe and 2 Shaman Kings. What was Lin Feng to them? He did not believe that Lin Feng's true strength could match the 2 Shaman Kings, Gomong and Rushu. The Sorcerer tribe experts were all arrogant. In their eyes, this was a battle that they would definitely win. Why did they need 2 Shaman Kings? It was a waste of talent. But, in the end, they were all shocked. A crushing defeat. It was a crushing defeat. If the southern region's last battle against the demon tribe was just a small test, then this time, it could be said to be bold and decisive. Facing the aggressive and confident Sorcerer tribe and human experts, Lin Feng didn't even remove the 0-degree defense. He didn't set up any defenses at all. The more he retreated, the more the enemy advanced. Kind people were bullied, and kind horses were ridden. This had been the case since ancient times. In the Douling world, strength was the most fundamental. In these 2 consecutive battles, the southern region and Lin Feng used the most direct and simple method to tell the shaman and demon tribes humans were not pushovers. Boom! Boom! The sounds of battle rang out. and energy soared into the sky. At the border of the southern region, Lin Feng was the leader. Wan Macho, Qian Lian Huang, King Yin, and the other experts were all fighting, including the new warriors of the God-making plan. All of them were like tigers out of their cages. They weren't afraid of death and showed great courage in the face of the sorcerer tribe's aggression. On one side, the two Lin Feng fought against the two shaman kings, and they had the upper hand. On the other side, Wan Macho took out the Zen Bell and fought with Qian Lian Huang on the left and right. They were invincible. Roar, roar! The godly beasts and ferocious beasts, together with the human experts, launched attacks again and again. They killed the experts of the sorcerer tribe and the warriors of the 8 Great Territory Alliance until they cried for their parents. They were utterly defeated. In single battles, double battles, and group battles, the southern region had the upper hand. Perhaps the sorcerer tribe and the 8 Great Domain Alliance thought it was beautiful, but the reality was cruel. Today, the southern region would not be bullied by anyone. Kill! Lin Feng raised the Doomsday Spear. The dazzling light covered the entire battlefield, and the sparkling blood beads on the tip of the spear were heart-wrenching. The shaman kings withdrew their weapons, and blood flowed all over the ground. They were severely injured. Chapter 1529. Great Flame Continent. Oh my God, so powerful. The southern region is so powerful. Emperor Lin is so powerful. Ha ha. The sorcerer race is nothing. I've already said that with Emperor Lin around, the southern region will be as stable as a rock. Vermilion Bird Continent. I thought the sorcerer race and the sorcerer king would be so powerful. Wrong. The sorcerer king is indeed terrifying, but our Emperor Lin is even more terrifying. Also, did you see those divine beasts? Those are all Emperor Lin's masterpieces. Not only is he the strongest human, but he's also the only blacksmith in the entire Douling world who can refine heaven-grade acquired treasures. Heh, I was there when Emperor Lin was crowned the winner of the blacksmith conference. So what? I've seen Emperor Lin and the Lin clan with my own eyes. Every continent and every county had battle scenes projected in the sky. Just like the first time the 8-region alliance started a war, this war was completely shown to the people of the southern region. The difference was that Lin Feng had only shown his own strength last time, but this time he was showing the strength of the entire southern region. There was no need to hide it anymore. After today, the entire Douling world would know the strength of the southern region. But so what? Perhaps the sorcerer race or the demon race could easily destroy the southern region with all their strength, but they would definitely suffer great losses. Lin Feng had deliberately fought and displayed his strength this time. His goal was to tell the sorcerer race and the demon race that the southern region was not a pushover. No matter who dared to attack the southern region, they would fight to the death. If they wanted to fight, they had to weigh the gains and losses first. Was it really worth it? The mighty war didn't last for long. Sorcerer King Rushu was severely injured, and Sorcerer King Gomong was also injured. In terms of pure battle strength, his main body was not much weaker than his clone. However, in terms of attack power, decisive ability, and one-on-one combat, an Immortal Realm Cultivator was still stronger than an Immortal Realm Cultivator. With his clone's strength, killing the severely injured Rushu was just a matter of lifting his hand. However, there was no need for that. The southern region had already shown their stance. There was no need to kill them all. As the saying goes, leave a way out for everything. After all, compared to the demon race, the Magi and the human race were once allies. After all, they both belonged to the human race. Moreover, there was no unforgettable hatred between them. They would not rest until one of them died. If they took a step back, the world would be wide open. They had not truly shed all pretense of cordiality. Take your men and leave. Lin Feng waved his right hand, and the force carried Shaman King Ru Shou's massive body towards Gomong. Punk. Gomong's face was pale as he received Rushu's massive body. He was slightly injured, but he was clearly incomparable to Rushu. Shaman King Rushu had long fainted and lost consciousness. What do you mean? Zhu Meng's eyes glinted as he gritted his teeth. Nothing. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. The two figures instantly turned hazy and merged into one. He looked at Gomong and said slowly, "Go back and help me tell Shaman Emperor Jiang that I owed him a life back then. Today, I've returned 2 Shaman Kings to him. Everything that happened before is written off. If the Shaman race wants to fight again in the future, I, Lin Feng, will no longer show mercy. Let's see who's stronger. If others don't offend me, I won't offend them. If others offend me, I'll definitely retaliate." Scram! Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly as his soul force shimmered coldly, causing Gomong's body to tremble and his heart to palpitate. This time, he had truly witnessed Lin Feng's strength and the might of the human emperor. He was no match for him at all. Even if someone used words like scram, it was only natural. He had been defeated. He had been defeated rather miserably. It was not just him and Rushu. At a glance, the entire shaman army had been utterly defeated. There was no need to even mention the human alliance. It was simply not on the same level. The southern region's strength and Lin Feng's strength were far greater than what he had imagined. It was 10 times, 100 times, or even 1,000 times stronger than what the Shaman Emperor had imagined. He accepted his defeat wholeheartedly. Uproar. It was a truly great victory, a glorious victory. In fact, both the southern region and the demonic beast race had kept their mouths shut about the battle with the demonic beast race. Very few people knew what had happened, including the shaman race. The citizens of the southern region were kept in the dark. Like Shi Jiuyin, many people guessed that Lin Feng had reached some kind of agreement with the demonic beast race. But this time, the entire battle was being shown on the sky screen without reservation. Lin Feng, with absolute confidence, told everyone that the southern region was extremely powerful. He did not hide anything and would definitely not submit to the demonic beast race. The southern region will never lower its head and compromise with any force. No matter who has designs on the southern region, I, Lin Feng, will represent the entire southern region to declare war. We will fight to the death, and we will fight to the death. His voice was loud and clear, reverberating throughout the southern region. Lin Feng's arrogant figure was reflected on every screen. With the doomsday spear in his hand, he was like a peerless emperor, full of battle intent. We will fight to the death. We will fight to the death. Influenced by Lin Feng's heroic spirit, the citizens of the southern region raised their hands and cheered. Their faces were filled with faith and strength. There was no fear, only pride and excitement. Under Lin Feng's leadership, they no longer had to bow and scrape. They no longer had to fear the demonic beast race, and they no longer had to flatter the sorcerer race and ancient race. They could raise their heads and tell others loudly, they were humans. The demonic beast race. Good, very good. Kuei Tianyuan gritted his teeth. His eyes were filled with deep hatred. He wished he could kill Lin Feng and raze the southern region to the ground. But when he heard that the sorcerer race had returned in defeat, he felt an indescribable joy in his heart. His hatred for Lin Feng and the southern region was mostly personal, but his hatred for the sorcerer race was the demonic beast race's true enemy. Seeing the sorcerer race suffer, he was naturally happy. I didn't expect that we would underestimate the humans. Niu Yunlei nodded in a deep voice. The southern region is secretly nurturing the power of martial artists. Their strength is not what it used to be. If we don't get rid of them as soon as possible, they will definitely become a huge threat to the demon race in the future. Lam Tok Ti said seriously with a worried expression. At first glance, one would think that he was doing his best for the demon race, but in reality, he was filled with selfishness. No one hated Lin Feng more than him. He wanted nothing more than to kill Lin Feng. This was originally a great opportunity. Who would have thought that even the Demon King Kuei Tianyuan would be severely injured by Lin Feng? It shocked him. Lin Feng's strength improved by leaps and bounds. Kuei Tianyuan and Niu Yunlei nodded in agreement. However, let's put that aside for now. Neo Yunlei's voice was indifferent as he said slowly, "Our biggest opponent is still the sorcerer race. The strength of the southern region is there. If we fight him now, it will not benefit us at all." "That's right." Kuei Tanyuan also nodded, his eyes flickering. "We still have to be clear about our priorities." He naturally would not be willing to attack the southern region again. Not long ago, he had received a video that clearly showed his selfishness. If the demonic beast race attacked the southern region again, when the video was released, his reputation would be ruined. But Lam Tokti was anxious and wanted to say more. "There's no buts," Neo Yunlei interrupted without hesitation. "They have a Demon King level expert, over 1,000 saints, more than 10 Saint King level experts, and even a large number of astral treasure puppets. If we want to attack the southern region, our demonic beast race will have to pay a huge price." "That's right. Moreover, the southern region has already made their stance clear." Kuei Tanyuan coughed and said in a hoarse voice, "Right now, the southern region is in seclusion and is purely neutral like the heavenly spirit. If we attack and anger them, causing Lin Feng to join the sorcerer race, wouldn't the losses outweigh the gains? In my opinion, roping him in is more effective than threatening him. It's rare for the Blood Tiger Emperor to be so righteous and not be blinded by hatred." Neo Yunlei nodded. "What you said makes sense." "Damn it," Lam Tokti cursed in his heart. Seeing that the two demon emperors had formed a tacit understanding, he understood that it was extremely difficult to get rid of Lin Feng. He could only find an opportunity in the future. The sorcerer race was also in an uproar. They had gone forward full of hope and confidence, but in the end, they returned in disappointment and disappointment. This was the best portrayal of the sorcerer race. They had truly witnessed the strength of Lin Feng and the southern region. They had been beaten to a pulp. In the ancestral sorcerer palace, not only did the sorcerer kings have ugly expressions, even the sorcerer Emperor Zhang's expression was solemn. He was very clear about Lin Feng's strength. His strength was roughly on par with the two sorcerer kings. How could he have improved so much in such a short period of time? This was not the most shocking thing. What shocked him the most was not the sudden increase in the number of human experts in the southern region, but their aura. Humans were completely different from before. This feeling was called unity, and it made him very uneasy. He had always regarded humans as slaves, as dispensable appendages. Even if he refined the human holy masters into a race, he did not feel the slightest bit of guilt. However, he had never thought that there would be a day when these slaves would even dare to go against their masters. Throughout the entire war, the performance of the humans could be said to be perfect. With Lin Feng as the leader, all the human experts seemed to have gathered together, and with the help of the Astral Treasure Chief, they displayed their strength to the maximum. It could be said that the sorcerer race's defeat this time was not a coincidence. Even if they fought again, the ones who lost would still be the sorcerer race, because the southern region was indeed very strong. "All right." Di Jiang suddenly opened his mouth. The expression in his eyes no longer changed, as if he had already made a decision. "Everyone, there's no need to say any more. The grudges with the southern region end here. Our opponent has never changed. There is only one, and that is the demon race." Di Jiang's voice was cold, and his tone was firm with a hint of imperceptible helplessness. The sorcerer kings agreed in unison. Although they were slightly surprised and puzzled, they did not have any objections and followed Di Jiang's lead. Southern region. Lin Feng had established his reputation in one fell swoop, and no one would doubt him anymore, because he had the strength. At the Peach Blossom Banquet, all the saints and sorcerer kings were present, and they all raised their cups to celebrate. Repelling the demon race and defeating the 8 Great Domain Alliance and the sorcerer race. Such a magnificent feat had never been accomplished by humans before. However, it had indeed happened today, turning a new page in human history. Celebrating with everyone, Lin Feng was in a good mood. However, in his heart, there was still some worry. It was not for the southern region, but for his mother, whom he had lost contact with for a long time. Phew! Exhaling softly, Lin Feng stood alone at the side. His gaze fell on the compass in his left hand, but there was still no reaction. Biting his lips lightly, he was hesitating whether to try to contact his mother again. Suddenly, the compass beeped, but it only lasted for a short moment before it stopped. The number was very familiar. It's Mother. Lin Feng's eyes widened, and he felt his mouth go dry. The call that only appeared for a moment was from his mother. When he called again, he still could not reach her. What was going on? Something must have happened to Mother. Lin Feng clenched his fists, and cold sweat dripped from his forehead. Chapter 1530. Lin Feng's face was pale, and his chest rose and fell rapidly. Even though they had not spent much time together, the relationship between mother and son did not diminish because of this. Instead, they cherished each other even more. In fact, he had already suspected this long ago. Logically speaking, his mother should not have lost contact for so long. It had been almost a year since they had last contacted each other. It was just that he had been entangled with trivial matters for the past year and could not leave. But now, I can't wait any longer. Lin Feng frowned slightly and thought to himself. Even though it was still too early to confirm that something had happened to his mother based on this short fluctuation, he would rather waste his efforts than have something happen. He had to take action. Moreover, the southern region had officially made a name for itself after 2 consecutive battles with the demon race, the human race, and the witch race. He believed that neither the witch race nor the demon race would come looking for trouble with the southern region in the short term. He had enough time to find his mother and find out what had happened. Moreover, he now had sufficient strength to lend his mother a hand. Wow, Lin Feng's eyes sparkled as he nodded. Southern region, Great Flame Continent. Lin Feng and Shun stood slowly in a huge, ancient building. Their eyes were clear, and their expressions were solemn. At this moment, dozens of men and women were buried in instruments in the ancient building. All of them gritted their teeth and looked anxious. They were operating the instruments quickly and discussing with each other from time to time. The entire ancient building gave off a busy and anxious feeling. Shun looked at Lin Feng and said softly, "Don't worry, we will definitely find her." Lin Feng's eyes sparkled as he nodded. Looking around, he had a lot of confidence in everyone's abilities. This was the center of energy technology. All the information from the compass was transferred and transmitted here. It could be said to be the link of the southern region. These people were also the best researchers in the entire southern region. They had spent their lives immersed in energy technology. They might not be strong, but their professional knowledge was not something that ordinary warriors could compare to. Time passed slowly. In every instant, these complicated instruments had been operating for tens of millions of seconds. Energy technology. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. He was very interested in this. Back in the Tianwu continent, he had already witnessed the power of energy technology back in the Lin family village. However, in the Douling world, cultivation was the right path for martial artists, and the strength of energy technology was only at the saint level at best. However, this was not the same, nor was it the end of energy technology. Just like how he thought of himself as a god back in the Tianwu continent, he was nothing but an insignificant dust in the Douling world. It was the same for energy technology. In the unknown starry skies, there must be even more advanced and powerful energy technology. Other things aside, the spaceships that he knew of were top-notch energy technology. Compared to the current standards of the southern region, it was like the difference between heaven and earth. Lin Feng's eyes flickered as he pondered. Right at this moment, I got it. An excited voice came from the crowd. It was a man with a mustache. His face was red, and his eyes were flashing with excitement. He stood up abruptly and clenched his fists. Whoosh! In an instant, everyone's eyes were focused on the man. Even Lin Feng had awakened from his contemplation. His heart moved as he looked at the man. His eyes were bright as he slowly said, "Have you found out?" Yes, yes, Emperor Lin." The man with a mustache nodded repeatedly. His tone was respectful and reserved. "Where's the location?" Lin Feng's chest rose and fell slightly. His expression was serious. The communication compass had a memory for every call, and the transfer point was the center of the energy technology. Using the signal and information from the compass, he could retrieve all the data and find out the location where his mother last called him. It was very feasible. He did not know about this, but Shun was very experienced. And now, the feasibility of this was confirmed. The news was about to spread. The signal is very weak, and it only lasted for a short moment before disappearing. The man with a mustache took a deep breath and said, "This means that there's a great disturbance there. It affects the magnetic field and prevents the signal from being transmitted accurately. Also, according to the signal from the compass, it is far beyond the human territory. I believe the precise location should be in the demon territory on the thousands of islands." The man with a mustache looked at Lin Feng with burning eyes. Whoosh! Lin Feng's eyes flickered as his heart surged. He had never thought that his mother would go to the demon territory. But it was also true. After all, the land area was very small. No matter how big the wilderness was, it would have been completely developed. The possibility of finding a large number of astral origin stones was very low. However, the thousands of islands in the demon territory were different. There were endless possibilities there. It was very mysterious. "I need the precise location." Lin Feng looked at the man with a mustache and said seriously, "This." The man with a mustache hesitated. He bit his lips and said, "I'm sorry, Emperor Lin. We can only determine the approximate location." The approximate location? Lin Feng frowned. There were so many islands. If he could only determine the approximate location, wouldn't it be very difficult to find his mother? Shun nodded thoughtfully. He said, "How big is the approximate location?" The man with a mustache operated the device skillfully. He quickly raised his head and said seriously, "It is about half the size of the small spring continent." Lin Feng's brows furrowed as his heart sank. He knew how big the small spring continent was. It looked like a continent, but it had 9 counties. It was about the same size as the Vermilion Bird Continent. It must be known that the Vermilion Bird Continent's Qianluo district was about the same size as the Tianwu continent. How many Tianwu continents were there in half the size of the small spring continent? If he had to search one by one, it would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. But other than that, there seemed to be no other way. Although the approximate location was huge, it was better than no news at all. Maybe he and his mother were connected by blood. They might be able to communicate telepathically. Thinking of this, Lin Feng couldn't help but nod. He already had a plan in his heart. "Let's find it first." "Understand." Lin Feng looked at the man with a mustache. "But how do we determine the approximate location?" "That's simple. Leave it to us, Emperor Lin." The man with a mustache raised his head confidently. "In half an hour, we can make a compass for you to determine the approximate location." "Good." Lin Feng nodded with satisfaction. Everyone worked together and worked quickly. They were all elites of their respective continents. They had high statuses. Now, they were working hard to make a compass. They did not even use half the time, the man with a mustache said. With everyone working together, they completed it. The man with a mustache respectfully handed over the compass and introduced it. "This is the pointer. It points to the approximate location. If the light below is lit up, it means it is within the range. If it is dark, it means it is outside the range." Lin Feng nodded and took the compass. It was not much different from his own compass. It was just that the function was more simplified. The small transparent light below was indeed dark. The pointer was swaying slightly as it pointed to the distance. "Very good. Thank you for your help." Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He nodded slowly and looked at Shun. "I'll leave this to you, Shun." "Oh yeah. Reward them with 10 million Wu coins for me." This, everyone took a deep breath and widened their eyes. 10 million Wu coins. Wasn't this a little too extravagant? All of these Xiang family's assets might not even amount to a fraction of 10 million Wu coins. Lin Feng. Shun's mouth twitched. He did not know whether to laugh or cry. "It's what they deserve," Yi Zichen said. Lin Feng nodded calmly. To him, money was nothing more than a worldly possession. He said seriously, "The energy technology civilization belongs to the human race. We must continue to develop our advantages. The 10 million Wu coins will be used as research funds. Make full use of it." Shun nodded. He understood what Lin Feng was thinking. He glanced at the shocked faces and said, "Aren't you going to thank Emperor Lin?" Like the sound of a bell, everyone came back to their senses. They were pleasantly surprised. They bowed their heads in gratitude. Cheers of joy filled the air. Lin Feng nodded at Shun. There was no need for words. They had a tacit understanding. Whoosh! Lin Feng's body was like lightning. He disappeared in an instant. Scamper! Lin Feng did not stop. He handed the southern region to Shun and left immediately. His main body had entered a state of cultivation. With the protection of the Shield of Truth, he did not need to worry about the safety of the southern region. As for looking for his mother, with his clone's strength and extreme speed, there were less than 2 people in the entire Douling world who were stronger than his clone. In terms of physique alone, his clone stood at the top of the Douling world's pyramid. Whoosh! Whoosh! Lin Feng's eyes were burning with excitement. Using the teleportation array, he went straight to the territory of the demon clan, the Boundless Sea region. With the guidance of the compass, he did not need to worry about getting lost. As he sped through the air, he could see scattered groups of sorcerer tribe in human residences from time to time. They had already spread throughout the Boorish land. Many strange beasts were active in the Boorish land. It had a unique ecological environment. There was no obstruction along the way. In fact, there was nothing in the Douling world that could stop him. His goal was clear. I can finally see the sea. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He followed the compass and soon saw the vast sea with raging waves. That was the habitat of the demon clan. It was the largest sea in the entire Douling world, the Boundless Sea region. As for his mother, she was lost in this area. I wonder what kind of power could trap my mother. Lin Feng thought to himself. His mother's strength was unfathomable. In his grandfather's words, his mother's strength was comparable to the 7 ancient gods of the ancient tribe. Logically speaking, even in the demon clan's territory, the Boundless Sea region, his mother had nothing to fear. She could do whatever she wanted in the Douling world. However, many things were not inevitable. Where there's danger, there's always an opportunity. Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he thought to himself. His intuition told him that he might gain a lot from this trip to the Boundless Sea region. Whoosh! His figure was like lightning. He quickly disappeared into the Boundless Sea region. Chapter 1531. The sea was vast and boundless. Even though the demonic beasts occupied a large piece of land, to them, it was merely their territory. The demonic beasts did not care too much about what was inside, or what was hidden inside, because that was the nature of the demonic beasts. Plunder, kill, the strong were respected. This was the law of the jungle. To the demonic beasts, this was the meaning of their existence. Hence, even though the Sky Martial continent was in the middle of the Boundless Sea, it was a country of its own, standing aloof from worldly affairs. Because the demonic beasts did not take humans seriously, to them, the Boundless Sea was their territory. Even if there were humans living there, they were just low-level creatures that they kept in captivity. In reality, the Sky Martial continent was not the only human in the Boundless Sea. Early on, after the Second Great War of the Shamans and Demons, humans consciously used teleportation arrays to move to the sea, leaving behind their bloodline. But the demonic beasts clearly knew this, but they did not care because to the demonic beasts, there was only one true opponent. That was the shaman race. It's very vast. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. Flying above the sea, the cool sea breeze blew in his face, making him feel relaxed and happy. There were no teleportation arrays here. Hence, to find the location of the compass was a huge task. After all, the deeper one went into the sea, the higher the possibility of having a secret. These islands that were close to the land, their potential had been exploited long ago. Many explorers would enter the sea for their own benefits. But the deeper parts of the sea were different. Without extraordinary strength, It was impossible to pass through the demonic beast's heavy guard and enter. Hence, the chances of having an opportunity there was much higher than the front part of the sea. Roar. Violent roars resounded, causing the sea to shake. Lin Feng looked over. In front of him, there were a few large winged rocks flying in the sky, their blood-red eyes staring straight at him. The leader was huge. It did not hide its chi of the saint level. Its black and red claws emitted a terrifying killing intent. It was as if they were the protectors of the sea. Seeing humans, they killed without mercy. But swoosh! Lin Feng's eyes flashed as he stared at the leading rock. Without needing to make a move, the power in his eyes descended from the sky like lightning. In an instant, the expression of the saint-level winged great rock changed drastically. Its loud and proud voice instantly turned into a low cry. Its huge body shrunk into a ball, and its wings trembled slightly. It did not dare to move at all. It felt the threat of death. This ordinary-looking human powerhouse in front of it was far from what it could contend against. He was an existence like the heavens. Xiao. Lin Feng was like a sharp arrow piercing through the air. He did not kill the winged great rock, even if it was as easy as lifting a finger for him. Was there any benefit in killing them? In this boundless sea, there were tens of thousands of such saint-level magical beasts. If he had to kill every single one of them, how much effort would he have to expend? Right now, his mother was probably in deep trouble and was in danger. He had to make the best use of his time and find her as soon as possible. There was no need to fight with these beasts. It was a waste of time. Wait for me, mother. Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he clenched his fists. Demon Emperor Island. This was the center of the entire sea. Just like the wizard realm on land, Demon Emperor Island was located in the center of the sea. It was known as the essence of the entire sea. This place had the densest spiritual energy and most abundant energy in the vast sea. It accumulated in the sky above the sea all year round and was so dense that it almost condensed into a solid state. Everything returned to its origin. Many things would not change. The human race had the existence of the human emperor who ruled over the entire human race. The demon race had the demon emperor, and the wizard race had the wizard emperor. In the land of the Doling world, the wizard realm gathered all the essence. Even if a heavenly treasure appeared, it would still be in the wizard realm. This was because the wizard realm was the soul of the land, the center of a circle. Demon Emperor Island was the same. Even if the sea was countless times bigger than the land, no matter how big the circle was, it still had a center. The existence of the origin. And the area where the Demon Emperor was located was the origin. What Lin Feng did not know was that the area that the compass pointed to was exactly around Demon Emperor Island, the most elite area of the demon race. Even though the great war of the wizard and demon race had broken out and all the heroes of the demon race had come out, there were still many powerhouses on Demon Emperor Island. Most of them were the elite powerhouses of the various royal families who were cultivating in seclusion. There were countless sage, king-level powerhouses. But all the powerhouses added together were probably not as powerful as the transcendent existence standing proudly in the sky above Demon Emperor Island. The Great Sage, the commander of the demon race. Holding a giant cudgel in his hand, he looked like an ape-man. His terrifying muscles made people shudder. He had the strongest power in the Doling world. Swoosh, swoosh. A pair of bright lights kept flashing, emitting a scorching light. Holding the giant cudgel in his hand tightly, the light of the star power kept flashing. It seemed that he was competing with the giant cudgel, but also seemed to be cultivating in seclusion. A terrifying power filled Demon Emperor Island, full of dominance. Dawn! The giant cudgel in his hand shook violently. The whole sky seemed to collapse. The power was extremely shocking. Roar! The great sage roared at the sky. In an instant, he waved the giant cudgel. A surging power appeared like a whirlwind, and his fighting spirit was endless. The giant cudgel in his hand seemed to be shaking. It was not compatible with its master, But at this moment, it was like a fierce horse meeting a knight with superb riding skills. It could not escape at all, even though it was not compatible. The waving of the giant cudgel contained the power of heaven and earth. The flashing of the star power even assisted it. Boom, boom, boom. The sky fell and the earth cracked. Every time the giant cudgel was waved, it seemed to tear the space apart. The use of the power of space also changed with the appearance of the power of heaven and earth. The rich Tao of metal flashed, invincible. Even though the giant cudgel was very unwilling, it was undeniable that in the hands of the great sage, even if only a little of the giant cudgel's power was released, it was already extremely terrifying. Because the giant cudgel was one of the 3 heavenly treasures, Earth Pillar. The great sage had forcibly refined more than 1/3 of the giant pillar of light that day. It had truly been transformed into a cudgel, a weapon. To the great sage, that defeat was unforgettable. Being completely defeated by the Witch Emperor had aroused the beast in him that refused to admit defeat. It was because of this that he had not come out of seclusion. He had always only fought for himself. The life and death of the demon race had nothing to do with him. He wanted to completely refine this heavenly treasure and increase his absolute strength so that he could fight the Witch Emperor again. Boom! The giant cudgel was like the wrath of the heavens. It crazily slammed into the vast ocean, instantly causing huge waves to surge. The terrifying power seemed to have smashed a hole in the ocean. The great sage's eyes were filled with fighting spirit and radiance. However, there was a faint trace of gray in it. Even he himself did not know. 10 days and 10 nights. Lin Feng maintained a constant speed on his journey. He frowned and looked at the compass from time to time. This simple compass that was rushed only had a small light to indicate the direction and a small light that would light up at any time. It did not have any other functions, so he had no idea what the current situation was, how far away he was from his destination. Or was there a possibility that the compass was damaged? If I had known, I would have asked them to add some functions. Lin Feng thought to himself, but it was just a random thought. In fact, he knew very well that the possibility of the compass being damaged was not high. The real reason was that his mother had indeed entered the depths of the sea. Otherwise, why would she be trapped inside? With mother's strength, it is not impossible for her to cross the entire sea. Shun once said that the true essence of the sea, the undiscovered area, is in the deepest part of the sea. Even the demon race does not know how big that area is. That place contains endless mysteries. Lin Feng murmured in his heart and nodded slowly. The few demonic beasts in front of him looked at him in shock and fear, but they did not even dare to move. They did not have any fighting spirit or killing intent. The demon race was also afraid of the strong, even if the strong was just an insignificant human. Whoosh! Lin Feng's expression did not change. He did not even glance at these demonic beasts. Along the way, he had encountered too many such situations, so he had already spread his aura. The doomsday spear behind him flashed with fighting spirit, full of power and provocation. Although he had exposed his strength, he could avoid some unnecessary battles, so his journey was much smoother. Of course, there would always be some demonic beasts that were not afraid of death, and their fates were obvious. However, is it a coincidence? Or is there something related to it? A light flashed across Lin Feng's eyes. These days, not counting the demonic beasts that he had encountered by chance, more than 80% of the demonic beasts he had encountered were getting stronger and stronger. In recent days, he had encountered quite a number of Saint-level and even Saint King-level demonic beasts, far more than the previous 7 or 8 days combined. If this was a coincidence, it would be too lucky. But if it was not a coincidence, maybe I should be heading towards the place where the strong demon race gather, Lin Feng muttered to himself, but his guess was not far from the truth. Now he was heading straight towards Demon Emperor Island, the place that the demon race was most proud of in the entire sea area, and he was getting closer and closer. A little. As he slowly approached, Lin Feng did not notice that the needle on the compass had gradually stopped swinging, and there was not even a slight change. And the small light that had been dim since the southern region was faintly visible. He could not see it because he did not pay attention. After all, it was very similar to the light reflected by sunlight. However, when the Real signal appeared, even if Lin Feng did not pay attention, he could still see it clearly. Whoosh! The green light was bright and dazzling. Lin Feng, who was speeding, suddenly stopped, opened his eyes wide, and took a light breath. He was not mistaken. The light on the compass really lit up. That's great. Lin Feng clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. After 10 days and 10 nights of hurrying, all the exhaustion, nervousness, and doubt had vanished in a thin air at this moment. All that was left was a dense hope that slowly rose from the bottom of his heart. He had finally arrived. Chapter 1532. The first step was completed perfectly, even though it took him 10 days and 10 nights. But it was worth it. I'm finally here. Lin Feng pursed his lips as his chest heaved up and down. He wasn't nervous, but excited. He calmed himself down and looked around. All he saw was a vast ocean with no end in sight. Even though the green light was shining, indicating that he had entered the correct location, the real test had just begun. Because the range was huge, it was half the size of the little spring continent. How difficult would it be to find a person in half of the little spring continent? If he could sense his mother's aura, it would be easy. However, he couldn't even contact his mother with the communication compass, which meant that she must be in a strange area. The chances of finding her with her aura were slim. What he had to do was to dig 3 feet into the ground and search slowly. It was a difficult task. However, he had to complete it. Let's determine the range first. Then, I'll search carefully. Lin Feng's eyes shone. He had a plan in mind. Even if he had to move mountains, he had to search this area thoroughly. Chi. His speed wasn't fast. Lin Feng held the compass in his hand and looked at the little lamp below. The little lamp's senses were quite accurate. It would light up as long as it was within the range. Once it left the range, it would fade. As for the compass, it had already stopped working. He didn't know if it was because the magnetic field was too strong or because he had already reached this range. Lin Feng was quite patient. He was like a tailor taking measurements of clothes. He was meticulous and didn't make any mistakes. He moved slowly around this huge area. His eyes flashed and his expression focused. His aura was slowly released. Even though the chances of sensing his mother's aura were extremely slim, it was better to try. Or could he touch this slim chance? Moreover, the release of his aura could effectively prevent some demonic beasts with bad intentions and make them retreat. His strength was already at the top of the pyramid in the Doling world. Other than some demonic beasts with a bit of intelligence, demonic beasts wouldn't be so bored as to send themselves to death. After all, they didn't have an irreconcilable grudge against him. There are many things that can only be known after doing it. Actually, it might not be like what I imagined. There's always a difference between reality and plan. Lin Feng's lips curled into a smile. He was in a good mood. He was wrong. However, this mistake made him very happy. Half of the little spring continent was indeed huge, and to find a single person in this vast region was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. However, this was not the real little spring continent, but the sea, the boundless sea. What did the sea have the most? It wasn't the tens of thousands of islands, but a vast ocean. If one were to liken the ocean to a huge chessboard, the millions of islands were merely empty chess pieces that were not fully placed on the chessboard. Even though the range that was previously determined was very large, the number of islands that were actually in this range would not be many. At most, it was the ocean. The possibility of his mother being in danger in the ocean was obviously very small. I believe that after a general survey and statistics, the specific range can be determined. Lin Feng nodded lightly, his eyes flashing. His hopes had multiplied. This discovery was rather good news. Demon Emperor Island. Boom! Boom! Huge waves surged, as if a natural disaster was descending. The waves blotted out the sky and covered the earth, as though they wanted to destroy Demon Emperor Island. The surging and enormous power caused people's hearts to tremble. The Demon Clan experts on Demon Emperor Island were also on tenterhooks, afraid that they would inexplicably be killed if they angered this Demon Clan commander who was like a ferocious beast. From the swing of the giant rod, and from the great sage's expression, one could tell that he was very unhappy. His injuries had long recovered, but he had spent a lot of time and energy and still had not completely conquered this heavenly unique treasure. In fact, to the demon race, it was already very difficult to be compatible with an innate treasure, let alone a heavenly unique treasure. In the entire Doling world, there were very few experts who could be compatible with a heavenly unique treasure. The great sage was able to use his own strength to forcibly refine a heavenly unique treasure that was compatible with him. This in itself was a kind of miracle. Other than him, perhaps only the Witch Emperor had the ability and courage to forcibly merge with a heavenly unique treasure. One had to know that forcibly merging with a heavenly unique treasure was a very dangerous action. Just like how the impact of strength was two-sided, so was the compatibility. If one did not have enough strength, not to mention a heavenly unique treasure, even an innate treasure could shatter a martial artist's soul. And this was what the demon race was most afraid of, because the demon race's weakest point was their soul. However, the great sage was clearly an exception. He had the most outstanding and abnormal talent in the entire demon race. His soul was as immovable as a rock. Any other innate treasure would have been forcibly refined by now, but this was a heavenly, unique treasure, a terrifying existence that possessed the power of heaven and earth. Rather than saying that the great sage was cultivating, it was more accurate to say that he was fighting. This was a battle of strength against strength, a battle of wills. His soul and the heavenly unique treasure were engaged in the most direct and intense battle, just like taming a wild horse. The current rebellion was not what he wanted, but it was unavoidable. There were only two outcomes of taming: success or failure. Lin Feng's expression changed abruptly. He had only circled half a circle, and his heart was beating rapidly. He had not had this feeling in a long time. It was not because of the telepathy between him and his mother, but a premonition, a warning. Every time there was great danger, this feeling would always appear. He had never thought that with his current strength, he would still have this warning. Is it the powerful force that trapped my mother? Lin Feng bit his lips. This was the first thought that came to his mind. His guess was very likely true. Although his mother's strength was not as strong as his, it should not be too far off. To be able to trap his mother, this force must be very strong. Clenching his fists, Lin Feng's eyes burned. He was not afraid, but happy because this sudden change made him even more certain. This was the place he was looking for. Moreover, with this warning, his goal was even clearer. Knowing that there was a tiger in the mountain, he still walked towards it. Let's give it a try. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. He was not afraid at all, only anxious and uneasy. If this force was really so terrifying, then his mother's current situation was very dangerous. He had to speed up and save her. One person's skills were weak, two people's skills were strong. Perhaps with his own strength, he could save his mother from danger and let her escape. Come, Lin Feng shouted. A pure force instantly separated from his mind. Although the distance was so far, his original body and doppelganger were one. Although it took a little longer than usual to summon his doppelganger, his body quickly split into two. His original body ended his cultivation and came to this dangerous sea world. An extra bit of strength was an extra bit of strength. His original body's strength was not much inferior to his doppelganger. If the two of them worked together, their strength would double. He was even confident that he could fight Kuei Tianyuan head-on once. Left, right, they split into two. His doppelganger went straight to the place he sensed, and his original body went in the other direction like an inverted cone. About half a circle. Although I can't be sure how many islands there are in the periphery, at least I saw one. Lin Feng thought to himself. His original body was heading in the direction of the only island he saw. Although, in his opinion, the chances of his mother being on that island were very small, at least there was one more chance. No matter what, there was no harm in taking more paths. His doppelganger went against the waves and went straight to the place where the warning came from. Swoosh! His eyes flickered. The doomsday spear behind him trembled slightly, as if it felt its master's murderous aura. It revealed a bright light. It couldn't wait any longer. Fearless. Lin Feng's expression was calm. He didn't waver at all. If it was him in the past, his only reaction in the face of such a warning was to leave and avoid it. But now he had enough strength and confidence to fight and face it. Moreover, for his mother, he had no way out and would not think of any way out. Cut through all obstacles. He would kill anyone who stood in his way. Boom! The doomsday spear roared ferociously. Lin Feng's eyes were burning. Light appeared in his hands. The spear intent realm was full of powerful force. This was his unique starry sky level spear intent realm. Demon Emperor Island. Boom! Boom! The explosions didn't stop for a moment. The great sage seemed to have gone mad. His eyes were red, and his eyes were about to burst. His violent body trembled violently. His strength seemed to be endless. He vented it over and over again, causing the entire Demon Emperor Island to be on tenterhooks. They didn't know when this torturous moment would end. They could only hope in their hearts, but they didn't dare to say anything. But, as if he had heard the voices of the Demon Emperor Island's experts, the great sage's furious attacks suddenly stopped. It was as if there was a thunderstorm a second ago, but the next second, it was calm and peaceful. It was really strange. The Demon Emperor Island's experts looked at each other, not knowing what had happened. It was like the calm before the storm. They didn't know what to do. At this moment, the great sage, who was floating in midair, was holding the earth pillar in his hand. It trembled slightly. His blood-red eyes turned half of his head and looked into the distance. He had found something. Although most of his soul energy was fighting the earth pillar, he was still the great sage. He was the strongest existence in the Demon Emperor Island. If he couldn't even find a mere human, how could he be worthy of being the leader of the Demon Emperor Island? A hint of doubt flashed in the great sage's eyes. Clearly, he was curious about what kind of human expert had such power. However, he was even more excited and in high spirits. Clenching his fists, the great sage suddenly roared into the sky. His clear battle intent spread out arrogantly, causing the earth pillar in his hand to tremble even more violently. However, it couldn't escape the great sage's control. Roar! As if he was roaring, as if he was venting his anger, the great sage instantly shuttled back and forth like lightning. He went straight for where he sensed it. He was coming. Chapter 1533. Pa! Lin Feng stopped and widened his eyes. His heart was beating faster and faster. Even though he was far away, he could clearly sense an aura, the aura of a powerhouse. He never thought that he would meet him here. That day in the Sorcerer Tribe's territory, he had witnessed the battle between the Sorcerer Emperor and the Sorcerer Emperor with his own eyes. That majestic and proud figure was still deeply imprinted in his mind. His doppelganger had been learning and comprehending his control and application of the Metal Dao and the Strength Dao, but he did not expect that he would meet him again at this moment. The commander of the demon clan, the great sage. I've been recuperating. I didn't expect him to be recuperating here. Lin Feng thought to himself, feeling helpless. How big was the sea? Even so, he could meet the commander of the demon clan, a transcendent being comparable to Sorcerer Emperor Jiang, a powerhouse who stood at the top of the Do Ling world. Was it fortunate or unfortunate? It seems that he has discovered me, Lin Feng thought to himself as his eyes flickered. At this moment, the great sage's aura was approaching him at an extremely fast speed. The distance between them was quickly closing. From the intense battle intent and killing intent, it could be seen that the great sage wanted to fight and kill him without mercy. Pursing his lips, Lin Feng's eyes flickered. At this moment, he understood clearly in his heart. He seemed to have intruded into an incredible place. It should be an important place for the demon clan. Lin Feng thought to himself and exhaled deeply. But the key question was Mother here? Or could Mother have been captured by the demon clan and lost contact with them? Lin Feng's eyes widened as his heart trembled. Thinking of this, he felt that the possibility was very high. With Mother's strength, how many places could truly trap her? How many powerhouses could capture her? The commander of the demon clan, the great sage, was definitely one of them. That was a transcendent being who was on par with the sorcerer Emperor Jiang. Although he had suffered a crushing defeat at the hands of Emperor Jiang, it was not because of the battle. It was because his space Tao had been suppressed, and his heavenly treasure had not been compatible. That was why he had lost. In terms of true strength, the great saint was not inferior to Emperor Jiang at all. In fact, his potential was even higher. If he really captured Mother, could he win? Lin Feng pursed his lips as he pondered. He didn't have much confidence in his heart. At this moment, if he wanted to escape, the great sage might not be able to catch up to him. From the battle with Dijiang, it could be seen that although the great sage's physique was abnormal, it was more in terms of strength, toughness, and tenacity. His speed had not reached the limit, and dodging and dexterity were not his strong points. In terms of absolute speed, he was confident. If he wanted to leave, he could leave by himself. But if he were to leave now, wouldn't all his previous efforts be for naught? What was his purpose for coming here? Let's take a gamble. The doomsday spear in Lin Feng's hand moved, and its aura slowly leaked out. Don't retreat. On the other side, step. The main body officially stepped onto the land. To be more precise, it was an isolated island where not even a blade of grass grew. As far as the eye could see, there was sand and rocks everywhere, and huge groups of rocks stood there like giants. It was a wide expanse of flat land. Although this isolated island was barren to the extreme, as if it had been gnawed clean by insects, it was still quite large, and the end could not be seen. After all, his current vision was vastly different from before. Judging from its silhouette, it's at least half the size of a county city, Lin Feng said to himself. What did this mean? Previously, he had determined that the area was half the size of Shaoquan continent. In other words, it was 4.5 times the size of a county city. Now that the area of this isolated island was converted, it was quite shocking. In terms of area alone, this isolated island had a ratio of nearly 1/10 of the area. If the sea area was excluded, the ratio would be at least several times higher. Swoosh! Thinking of this, Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up, and his expression became serious. What did the increase in ratio mean? If he did not calculate other things, it meant that the probability of his mother being here was quite high. But is it possible? Lin Feng frowned slightly. Looking around, it was difficult to even hide a person here. How could his mother be here? This place was lifeless, and it did not match the dense spiritual energy in the surroundings. It was like two areas that did not fit in. If there was a secret here, then... Wait! Lin Feng's expression changed slightly, and he seemed to be deep in thought. There must be a reason for this abnormality. He had denied it too arbitrarily and too directly. In the vicinity of this area, along the way, every island had lush foliage, birds chirped, and flowers bloomed. Even if they did not have such abundant spiritual energy, they would still benefit from it. However, birds did not lay eggs here. With such dense spiritual energy, there was not even a single plant. Wasn't it strange? Not only was it strange, it was even more eerie. It was inexplicably eerie, just like a gloomy hell. Phew! Exhaling a mouthful of turbid air, Lin Feng's expression gradually brightened. In an instant, he sped forward, and he already had a plan in his heart. Investigate. He would know once he investigated. What kind of secret was hidden here? It was here. The demon clan commander, the existence that stood at the peak of the Douling world, had finally arrived. He was not wearing the sparkling battle suit, but his upper body was bare. His golden hair curled up, and it could not hide his bulging muscles, which were filled with absolute power. A pair of fiery red eyes with a hint of blood. He seemed to be extremely tired, as if he had gone mad. The surging battle intent seemed to have condensed into gas, and it could be vaguely seen. Wah! Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. His heart was beating very fast, but his mind was clear. He had finally met him. The feeling of facing him face to face was completely different. Phew! Lin Feng exhaled softly, his expression calm. Actually, he was very clear that this day would come sooner or later, but he did not expect it to come so early. That clear battle intent in his eyes seemed to be provoking him, with a hint of contempt. Just like the other Demon Clan experts, he had a natural sense of superiority towards humans, arrogance, and pride. However, he had this kind of one power, because he was already standing at the peak of the Douling world, and he could look down on all the small fry. Moreover, his strength was indeed superior to his. "Hello, Lord Commander." Lin Feng spoke slowly. He did not speak the language of a human clan, nor the language of the wizard clan, but the common language of the demon clan. The great sage was stunned. Clearly, he did not expect the human in front of him to speak the language of the demon clan. However, his surprised expression disappeared in an instant, and his blood-red eyes carried a hint of coldness. He said in a deep voice, "Human, how dare you enter the forbidden area of the demon clan?" His voice was stern and filled with wanton anger. Ever since he became the commander of the demon clan, the great sage had already sat on the top seat of the demon clan. Perhaps he could not be bothered to care about many things, but the matter of face was extremely important. How could Demon Emperor Island allow a thief to enter? Ordinary saint-level demon clan experts might not even be able to enter this area, but now a mere human had entered. If news of this spread, he would lose face as a commander. As expected, Lin Feng thought to himself. Just as he had expected, this was indeed the forbidden area of the demon clan. The commander of the demon clan was recuperating here. Coupled with the rich spiritual energy and the increasingly powerful demon clan experts, he had already vaguely guessed it. However, guessing was just guessing. Even if it was a dragon's pool or a tiger's den, he still had to barge in. After all, it was related to his mother's safety, and he could not compromise. "I have barged in by mistake. Please forgive me, Lord Commander." Lin Feng cupped his hands slightly and said. His main body was currently searching the isolated island. Every bit of time he could buy was a bit of time. Moreover, since the Demon Clan commander was willing to chat with him, there was still room for negotiation. If he could avoid unnecessary battles, especially when the opponent's strength was far greater than his, there was no need to show off. "Nonsense!" The great sage suddenly shouted and snorted disdainfully, as if he looked down on Lin Feng's appearance. Pung! He raised the giant staff in his hand. Starlight flickered, and his hair stood upright. The golden starlight shone brightly, and a giant bear constellation vaguely appeared behind him. It was the same as Lin Feng's power system. When he used all his strength, it was extremely terrifying. Ursa Major Constellation, a true Emperor constellation. Obviously, the great sage was too lazy to talk nonsense with Lin Feng. He wanted to kill him quickly. Originally, he was like the other Demon Clan members, disdainful of humans. Being able to make an exception and speak a few words with Lin Feng was already exceptionally benevolent. Moreover, he was unable to completely refine the Earth Pillar after expending so much energy. The great sage was actually very unhappy, and he had nowhere to vent his anger. He wanted nothing more than to have a big battle, to vent the pent-up frustration in his heart. Lin Feng just happened to bump into the muzzle of the spear. Wait! Lin Feng frowned. He knew that things were not going well. The Demon Clan commander's intentions were clear. This battle was unavoidable, and he was waiting for it to happen. The great sage's fiery red eyes flashed. He coldly said, "Human, I advise you not to do anything that will make this great sage look down on you." His tone was full of disdain. He thought that Lin Feng was going to open his mouth and beg for mercy to save his life. In his eyes, humans were such cowards. Of course not, Lin Feng indifferently said. He understood the great sage's meaning. He would not do such a thing, nor would he do such a thing. There were things that a man should and should not do. Although he did not really want to fight the great sage, this battle was unavoidable. But before that, he wanted to clarify one thing. I only want to ask a question. I hope that Lord Commander will answer me truthfully, Lin Feng slowly said, his eyes bright. The great sage's eyes flashed. He coldly laughed. They say that humans are cunning, and they are indeed so. I want to see what kind of schemes you have. Ask away. Okay, I believe that Lord Commander will not lie. Lin Feng indifferently smiled, secretly provoking the great sage. Seeing the great sage's disdainful expression, he was even more certain. He slowly said, Lord Commander, may I ask if you have seen an ancient race expert with the strength of an ancient god here who raped a woman from the ancient Feng clan? Or perhaps you captured her and imprisoned her? Lin Feng stared fixedly at the great sage. He hoped to see some clues from the great sage's expression, but there was no change in his expression. He only snorted. No. The great sage raised his head, his eyes bright. This is a forbidden area of the demon clan. Those who are not of our race will be killed without mercy, regardless of whether they are humans, ancient race, or sorcerer race. There are no exceptions. Okay, I have said my last words. His voice suddenly became arrogant. The great sage's killing intent surged out, covering the sky and earth. Then die. The great sage's aura suddenly erupted. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.